Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host Richard Lewis. Joining me now out of the UK and back to warmer shores, let's say, nicer shores, is Duncan Thorin Shields. Sam's pressing all the buttons and talking in my ear. I haven't talked to you guys in since the last show, I don't think, practically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have I ever told you this mad thing about the Netherlands, by the way?
Yeah,
I thought they just said this.
I hear they sell weed out.
I've got some good ones, right? Basically, there's this stupid quote they have in the Netherlands where they say that, man was created by God, but God created the Netherlands or whatever. Because apparently most of it is like reclaimed land, that it's just swampland otherwise. So like Amsterdam basically should be like underwater or whatever, but they put all like poles into the ground and made buildings on it. The only thing about that is a bit presumptuous, the entire thing, isn't it? Like, well, man created God. It's like, first of all, you got all your work ahead of you there. That's not even solid ground. But you're building another assumption on top of that about you building Netherlands. Like, mate, this could be a simulation. You might not even have made anything. You might just have been here at the beginning, like, sound, I'm on level 10. Thought I was level 1.
Well,
they get stuff, Netherlands. I'm back in here. I'm in your gut so fucking deep. I'm about to create new life in this motherfucker. But I won't just go and thoroughly create this new life. I'll just go I don't know who's doing any creating. That's all I'm saying. Just leave it at that.
Great opener, strong. Looking forward to seeing where the show goes today, mate.
There we go.
You're
invested by the numbers already.
So some of your best work. So anyway, what we're gonna do this episode, because obviously we had a bit of a mad episode, and there's a ton of stuff to sort of catch up on in the aftermath of the last episode. We will get into some of that, but we've got a huge event deficit.
Yes.
The last 2 weeks we've had about 4 events. There's one going on.
Does it fucking hell?
Yeah, and there's one going on right now. I've just watched Moses lose another map with Team Liquid. So he's feeling the pressure. His chinos are getting particularly brown at the moment. But we'll save all the IEM Global Finals for next week or whatever. Maybe when we do the Christmas special. Maybe we'll get Moses on for the Christmas special. I'd like to get basically Battle of the Bald Frauds, get Moses and Henry G on and talk about.
That would be glorious, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I want to talk about how's life going. You went out on the top of the broadcasts. Fucking everyone loved you. And now you're finding out in the private sector they expect results a la Ghostbusters.
I already predict as well. Like, the logical play here would be Prisoner's Dilemma. What you should actually do for your Henry and fucking Moses is join forces and be like, well, put up on the United front, we're both trying really hard. But what would happen is Henry would just instantly turn against Moses, try and throw him under the bus. Like,
he's doing worse than me, way worse.
Exactly.
Right. I don't want to give away too much about private conversations, but I know Henry won't mind this at all. Because obviously Cloud9 lost to Forza in that 9 to 5 Midnight Cup or whatever it's called. And basically he was just like, well, after that, the only thing I've got to look forward to is Jason losing now in the Intel Extreme Masters. So yeah, there's a bit of that. So it'll be good to get them on because obviously they are mates. We're all mates. We've all had a drink. We're all still mates. Yeah. But let's just get them on the show and see what we can do to poke their raw emotional spots. But anyway, shout out to, speaking of raw emotions, I get emotional when I think about how well my sponsors support me. Obviously, a new sponsor that's been brought in, nordvpn.com/RLS, 70% off for a VPN. Don't you ever question my segues, Duncan. And obviously, our long-standing sponsor that brought so much joy to this podcast down the years by making Sam have to edit their name out every time I say it. It's .com or beep with 9 E's if you're watching on YouTube, because I'm the only person not allowed to advertise partnered gambling companies. Go check them out. Yeah, it's a great arrangement.
Just every week, just pretend that's just reasonable, but that's just the way the world works.
Do you want to know what the worst part is?
You're not even wrong, because here's the thing. If you notice, me and you are in that unfortunate scenario where we just get fucked by all sides. Like this thing I'm having at the moment, right? So in the same world where everyone's complaining, yeah, we're all getting DMCA'd off Twitch, but there's nothing we can do, of course. That is just their legal right. And then I'm like, right, I'd like to invoke my DMCA rights. And then YouTube's like, nah, not for you though, pal. I mean, I'll just be going and blocking like a 12-year-old kid streaming a game he thinks he's bought because he doesn't know the way that fucking digital shit works. But you can't get any DMCAs done on sound. Well, so I just basically the rule is it just doesn't ever work for me, but it works for everyone else. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Now just fucking eat that. You just have to eat it as well. I have the same same thing. You might actually have to go cool. That's just the way life is from now on.
No, what I've accepted
against me.
what I've accepted is that there are basically a special set of rules designed to fuck me and only me. And if I want to enjoy my continued success, I have to operate within those parameters. And I'm at peace with it, Duncan. I'm at peace with it. It's just another bit of adversity. You still can
succeed, though. That's the good part. As long as there's room to still succeed, you have to just take it on the chin, don't you? Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it's ridiculous. So I can't advertise my partnered sponsor. I'm a beep it out. But rival companies too. Beep it out. Can advertise on my videos because YouTube have said they're okay, but beep it out. They're not allowed to do it. And then on top of that, so I get messages every day. Yeah, they're advertising wall hacks on your videos.
Sound.
So there's me, Mr. Integrity. Like, yeah, we got a problem, guys. There's 6 hours of me ranting into the void about all the problems that I face in Counter-Strike and go support ESIC, the Esports Integrity Coalition, and all this stuff. And then people are literally advertising private cheats on my videos, and I can't make them stop.
That does make you wonder how that algorithm for advertising works. Because videos, you're like, and then there's all the Vax Sox people say there's a conspiracy to cheat. It's like, back, get your new cheats now, lads. The cheats are all out now on the new marketplace. What?
So ridiculous. I'll tell you another thing as well, since I think this will be a nice, jovial, friendly episode without us screaming and shouting. Let's, we'll save it. Nearly popped a fucking blood vessel last time. Right, so I've been Caralhos again.
What have you done now?
No, but this is the madness.
I didn't see anything to do with Brazilians recently. What's going on?
Right, I know what is going on. So I woke up, and I've been on US time lately because I've been working on some projects. So I've been on like fucking West Coast is the best course, So I woke up a little bit later in the day than I would ordinarily. Woke up in the afternoon. And I'm having a cup of coffee, and I've noticed the old dreaded 99 plus notifications of doom. Like, what the fuck's happened here? Is it finally over? Is it finally over? And I'm going there, and it's all Portuguese. It's all words that I have learned about, things going in my ass, things going in my mouth, things going in my mouth so aggressively they come out my ass. It's all there in Portuguese. I've learned the words.
They like to paint a picture, I've noticed, the Portuguese, They're very evocative with the imagery.
It's a beautiful, evocative language when you want to talk exclusively about aggressive sexual acts. Yeah. It's got so many different variations of it.
What was that one that Greek guy had where it went like, fuck your ass. Yeah,
yeah, ridiculous.
So reasonable, isn't it?
Mate, but Portuguese might be on another level to even Greek when it comes to different aggressive sexual things. So anyway, I'm like, what the fuck have I done now? And I wrote an article recently basically saying, watch out, Valorant, because all the scummy cunts that were match fixing and were arseholes and cheating and dodgy pasts are all moving into your game, and Riot aren't equipped at the moment to deal with this type of influx. Up until this point, all Riot Games have had to deal with is like saying naughty words in League of Legends.
Oh, of course.
And they have a task force dedicated to that. They've never had rampant cheating, rampant match fixing, all sorts of scummy behavior, fixed tournaments, betting scandals. They've not had any of this. So that was all the article was saying, like, just watch out. And
did you use a photo of a Brazilian player? Is this the angle?
No, not even that.
This one.
So a Brazilian website took the article and just did a quote saying Richard Lewis criticized various players and Riot, saying that the Valorant scene is being built by liars, profiteers, and thieves or frauds. I forget what the quote was. And they tagged me in it. And so I'm like...
And then were they like, obviously he's implying that Fallen's going to Valorant.
No. There we go. But for some reason, I think mostly because that subsection of angry Brazilian fans just don't read. They took that as me saying, like, Valorant is evil or something. And so I literally, no joke now, I think it just ticked over past 1,000 messages of, again, the usual violence.
It's so mad, isn't it?
Hate. And I'm like, well, what have you morons are defending the cheats now. And it's like, you block someone who is literally threatening to fuck me up the arse with a knife. Block him, right? don't fancy that particularly. Don't want to read that. And someone replies with, "Why did you block him? Xenophobic, I."
Yeah, it's my ass. Basically, yeah, completely.
So
you know,
that
thing is,
so I've dealt with that. Like that, it's still going on now as I've gone live on the show.
Though, it's where it's not even justified that people are going mental at you. Because, like, I'll tell you an old school one. This is just an obvious, just by the names referenced, you'll know how ridiculous this is. Back in like 2014 or something, when we were doing On Gamers that year, there was a brief period of time where Odie blacklisted me from doing any content with Dignitas, just because I wrote an article, right, about how some people at LCS fancy this concept, Richard, didn't necessarily like believe life or death, that it was about winning. They just played to be pros. And even though I never said it was Dignitas, for the image, I just looked through all those stock Riot photos that they used to put on the internet on their Flickr account that you could use, right? And there was just one that was hilarious because it was just like Scara from Dignitas, just like chortling like a fucking demented wizard in fucking like Terry Pratchett book because his team lost, like, and in the background it was like defeat as a massive screen. So obviously it's just the perfect image, wasn't it? So I used that image, and just because I used this image, like Odie, because it's back in the day when people were still just going mad, was just like, it's implying our players just don't even try to win the game, blacklist him. Like, sound. So I'm just blacklisted then. It was all those ones that, like, back then, you know, could only lasted a month or whatever, and you got back. Eventually it was all good again, you know.
Well, I'm still blocked by the Evil Genius's Twitter account, which again, it's their right to do it. But that happened when I was blacklisted by EG, and they've never.
From years and years ago, right?
Yeah, from like way back when. Like, it's like, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, they're only barely relevant to my interests now, but whatever.
They're not even that big, mate.
Nah.
I mean, I'm sure Forbes probably says the value getting 700 quintillion and that they're going with Elon Musk to Mars or something, right? Mate, you know what's mad about this is I didn't think I believed in the establishment much anyway, but when you see all these just jock sniffers coming in like Forbes, fucking, it's like, mate, you just realise it is just nothing. Celebrity is just absolutely fake, isn't it? It's just a veneer. There's nothing behind it. It's a ghost town. Like, it's actually whack. Mate, we're going to literally, no joke, in light of all the stuff we've seen now, the advert where fucking Ninja's getting shouted out by Jim Brown, legendary running back of the NFL. Now that I've seen these things with my eyes, this isn't some sort of like fucking, whatever, the Ozymandias speech here, but I'm just going to say, like, you're going to see even worse horrors. There's going to be some mad shit. Like, it's just going to be you know, fucking Baby Bay from Valorant's going to be like the most eligible bachelor in the world, says GQ magazine. It's like, we're going to go to that level of ridiculousness, I can tell. We're just almost there now. Well, like, at this point in time, like, Shocks is going to be like Time Person magazine of the magazine person of the year or something ridiculous, isn't she? Fair play to her. Of everyone, she'll at least have done a decent job to get there.
So look, let's talk a little bit about what happened after the CSPPA special. There were actually some positives that kind of came out.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, I want to... Oh, actually, before we even get to that part, here you go. Here's another thing. Because By the Numbers is basically, incredibly, the sort of moral compass of the Counter-Strike scene, which is
an indictment in itself.
I know. It's so terrifying.
I know.
I'll just link you to this because you remember the episode.
Shit! Wow.
Yeah. Do you remember the episode? You remember the episode where we talked a lot about how there was a business that had invested in Astralis, but also that collective group had also bought HLTV, and as a result, when the Astralis players went on the HLTV podcast and were essentially disputing reports and rumors and stuff like that, you said there should be some disclosure made because it's a reasonable thing to say. Well, funnily enough, after being told, you know, you were wrong to do it, and actually it wasn't a big deal and everything else, that they actually do now have a disclosure listed on their site. So don't worry, guys. We've done it again for you. It says there, I'm sure Sam will bring it up for you. Since February 2020, HLTV is a part of Better Collective. The founders of Better Collective, via their venture capital fund, Bumble Ventures, are minority shareholders in the Astralis group, holding less than 2.5% of their shares. The journalists of HLTV work completely independently of Bumble Ventures and have the same journalistic freedom as they have always had to report on the Astralis group as they would any other esports organization. Nothing has changed in that regard. What's hilarious about that is there was one of those nutcases on Reddit. I can't remember his name, but one of them, you know, one of the true lunatics, that's always talking about you and me, Ockler or someone like that.
There we go, one of them.
Yeah, because I pay attention to their names because obviously I do expect one day to have to file a police report against them because they're stalking you.
Some of them go too far for sure.
Yeah, they're stalking you now. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
You know, I expect at some point in my life someone's going to dox my address and I'm going to get, you know, someone's going to attempt to murder me.
When people have only been on the internet a few years, they always think like, oh, that's just exaggeration. Like, I've had a couple that have come close to that. Like, I had one guy once just sent me like a DM on Reddit. Remember, Reddit isn't even like particularly something you send DMs on. You know, it's quite rare that people do that. Someone just sent me like a massive DM where they were like talking about how like they were glad that I'd finally stopped talking to them like through their dreams or something, and now they wouldn't have to come and like find me. And it's like, look, right, I might just have to archive this one then. Sound good. I have to now deal with this now, do I? Just because I posted stuff about video games on the internet. Well, fuck me. So I told you, that's going to be the sad thing, isn't it? It's going to be some demented fucking reckless fan or something's going to get me. Is that how it ends?
Yeah,
after
probably.
all this, after all the glorious wars I fought in.
Yeah, probably.
I can't go, Caralhos!
So anyway, so there you go. I mean, despite being told, I mean, that guy even said, oh, they don't even own shares anymore. It's all irrelevant now. Well, weird, because they felt it relevant enough to disclose it on their website now. They specifically made a disclosures page just
I think what we did is we got under their skin on that one. We just got wrinkled the conscience the right way. By the way, fair play, should do that. As long as you do it, there's no problem.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like it was a massive deal or whatever.
No, I will say most of the last sentences are nonsense. Like, listen, that's basically like me going, I know there have been some disputes about the relationship between me and my son, but my son has the entire freedom to disregard anything I say and say anything he wants. But I tell you what, you're not going to say that now, are you? You little blighter. Yeah. See, he says it's all good. So now me and the son are going inside. I'll give you fucking. I mean,
all right, Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those, isn't it?
So anyway, so that was a W, I would say, for us. But also, let me just show you a few other things that sort of happened. You know, I did a little stream the other day. Numerous people came out about the CSPPA and confirmed what we were telling
loads
you.
of comments, from Paul.
Which especially from NA pros that basically said, you know, they didn't help us at all when we lost our slots. They didn't give us any advice. I did an interview with Vanity since then. That's going to be up on the beep it out channel, and he basically said that, you know, he put a message in like the chat, you know, like, look, chaos, we're having a nightmare over here, it looks like we're all going to get cut or whatever. And basically the attitude was, yeah, well, you know, we got to fix tier 1 in here before we even think about you guys.
Did you see that thing where ESL? Because you know the problem with Ulrich from ESL, mate, is he's just got the worst timing ever, hasn't he? He hasn't got like comedic timing. He hasn't got the right sense for like when to arrive. So he comes in, and even though his tweet was perfectly reasonable, it was sort of saying like, you know, like, hey guys, we're going to try and do something better for the NA scene now. Like, you know, we're going to make things better, and like, you know, we're going to like put some tournaments on. It's like, mate, read the room. The whole reason this topic come up again is because NA is almost dead. Thanks in part to what you guys did. And not only that, you gave all those slots to fuckers. So now, like, where's everyone? 100 Thieves have gone. People are gradually going. It's like, mate, to rock up at the end and be like, remember, the whole premise, the whole justification for taking the slots was it's a business decision. We haven't got the money. So to then rock up at the end, like, well, I've got some money now. You want to fuck around with a cup or something? It's like, it's just bad taste, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like you just come into a family. The whole family's just been wrecked by divorce. Like, the kids have run away from home. They're all drug addicts now. The mother and father are just at each other's throats, and you just walk in with little Teddy, like, all right, I'm ready to take an active part in the family now. It's like, it's too late, mate. It's just too late. Like, why are you coming at the end of the year with that? It's weak.
Well, yeah.
It's
I mean, that's
cynical too, isn't it? Like,
that's the next thing. As you rightly say, ESL sort of came out, and they did take a little bit of responsibility. I mean, I think that's academic, right? Like, you know, they removed completely valid slots that had been earned by, you know, NA teams, and they did it in association with the CSPPA. The CSPPA
almost tacitly just allowed them to do it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. The CSPPA went and had the talks, and neither ESL nor the CSPPA told the teams they were being cut. You
they
know,
didn't leak it to anyone. No journalists even knew. I remember.
Yeah, it was done. Like literally every team that was affected by that said they found out through the media on the day it was announced, which is outrageous. These people's livelihoods. You know, I mean, if you need a frame of reference, imagine the company you work for. Basically, your branch is getting cut due to budget constraints, and all the management's got in a room, discussed it, said, yeah, we totally need to cut that branch. You've not been consulted to present a defense for why they shouldn't cut you. They're not offering you any money, any compensation, any parachute payments, any relief, and you find out by the big corporate announcement in your paper while you're on your lunch break. You know, you'd be rightly outraged, and you know, the fact that a union has been complicit in that kind of thing is staggering to me. But anyway. The flying DJ basically said there's a narrative out there that ESL killed NA CSGO.
These guys are so shameless. Like these guys, it's like these guys want to come with Sauron's fucking hordes, burn the Shire, and then walk away. Like there's a narrative around here that we're fucking.
There's a narrative that the ring wraiths are out there riding.
It's so ridiculous.
There's a narrative that the ring wraiths are riding around looking for the ring.
Yeah. They can't just take the W. They have to spit in your face, don't they? It's so ridiculous.
So anyway, I mean, listen, I will say this. Like, he's kind of right. It is a bit of a narrative in the sense that they are not entirely to blame. Like, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fine. Of course. Yeah. They did obviously play a large part.
They were the dementor that sucked the soul out, like, to be fair.
Right. Exactly. You know, it's like there was a really long fuse connected to a bomb and they lit it. Like, we did not detonate the bomb. We did not detonate the bomb. So anyway, and while we accept responsibility for the way things were communicated about the change, the decision to have a global division was not one we took lightly. There simply was no other way to keep the EPL business running. This year has isolated the North American scene from the rest of the world, and it reinforces why we had to transform EPL into a global competition. The more North American teams practice and play separate from the rest of the world, the more difficult it becomes for them to stick together. And then he goes, in the past weeks, we have had a work group which brainstormed internally and with external stakeholders ways to improve the situation for CSGO teams being based in NA, and we are going to announce the first steps in the next days. These steps include an improved and more structured path from MDL into EPL, set qualifying opportunities from NA into the EPT events, and a revamped structure of ESEA to have a stronger focus on prize money team competition over individual play. I mean, you know, like, all great, cool, and I'm glad that they felt in the aftermath of everything that happened, and I think we can claim a little bit of responsibility in getting them to make that statement, but it's too little too late. I mean, I think for 2021, basically what's going to happen is if you're an NA team that supports a Counter-Strike team, you relocate to Europe. And if you're a former org that is in NA who wants to have an FPS team on the books, you move to Valorant. And now we've created a divide that's very reminiscent of like rugby league and rugby union, that kind of split. Sure. And it's like never the twain shall meet. And unfortunately, it's done on a continental basis because of the reality of the global pandemic and the travel restrictions. So, you know, ESL are in a bit of a quandary like that. But it's also got to be said, and this has been confirmed by DK, who was the guy that was reporting all of this ahead of time, that it wouldn't have mattered if the pandemic had never happened. They were still going ahead with this business decision.
Yes.
NA would have still been disproportionately
They definitely tried to conflate that, if you noticed.
Yeah. For sure.
They did the classic move where they didn't say it themselves, but they tried to imply it with like they messed up their own chronology sort of in telling that story. Because as DK pointed out there, that was before there was any lockdown. Like at the time they did that move, because remember the lockdown happened like 1 week into fucking Flashpoint. Like at that point in time, they cut those teams whether there was a pandemic or not. So they can't, by the way, guys, in case you haven't figured out what he's saying there, they can't go, well, look at the rest of this year. Like who could know? Like you were doing that anyway. Like I don't know why cutting all those slots would have helped you this year anyway. Like I know their logic is you'd have mixed competition, but like if anything, wasn't that the problem anyway in CS? We had too many international competitions. So I'm not quite sure what point you were even trying to make there, except like it's not our fault, which I get it. Yeah, it's not entirely your fault, of course not.
I mean, but equally as well, like what do they think is going to happen if a company that dominates 80% of the global calendar starts cutting slots willy-nilly? What do they think is going to happen? Like, you know, it's like you gotta see the trickle down there, right?
Think about what them and Chris J in that now deleted tweet essentially implies. Sort of like, dude, they're doing some shit of like NA is doomed, abandon ship. Like what? Like I thought the point was how do we turn it around, not just fucking jettison them off into the ocean.
That was mental. I mean, again, going back to the Vanity interview, which you'll all see in like a few days' time. You know, he said he couldn't believe that a representative, like the guy who was meant to be representing him, literally said, "NA's dead. What can we do?" Also, and also said, ESL's not going to listen to us. What can we do?
Mate,
and said it publicly.
I'd like to just transport Chris J back into past, like, you know, workers' rights fights in the past, like struggles against oppression. So imagine Chris J, he drops in, he's playing the character of William Wallace in Braveheart, and he goes, well, you know what, lads? You can't fight this fucking English. If anything, I'm just joining with them. Like, you know, fuck it. I think we just say, crack on. There's no point having this war.
England would go under if they can't steal our resources.
Exactly.
Come on.
Listen, come on.
Like, while he's there being killed, instead of screaming freedom, indifference! While he's getting...
Compromise! Why is he such a ridiculous cunt? I know, he's ridiculous.
I know. And the thing is, as well, I'll say this, because I said it on the stream that I did. Listen, Chris J's been an immaculate professional, never been involved in any drama or any bullshit. Super cool guy, super chill guy. It's not fair if his entire career, because he might retire soon. That's the word that's gonna. It wouldn't be fair if he was sort of tarnished just with this. But yeah, he's made a series of errors of judgments, you know. So there was that. What else happened? Well, here's another thing that sort of came out. We had Valve reached out to me off the back, and I said, "Did you watch the streams?" And they said, "Yeah, we watched them all, every minute." So they've heard you give the Gabe anecdote.
Yeah, there you go. Get fucked. It's totally. Guess what? You can go look on Twitter. It's all nailed down. It's all there on video. I got you banged to rights like I do every content in this industry, and it stings so bad because you can't do anything but cheat the rules to get me, can you? Well, come get me then, Gabe.
Why is this like a celebrity boxing
Jake
promo?
falling on him, like straight Jake falling on him.
He's going to be out there throwing like water balloons at Gabe Newell or something.
There's an example of what I can't. Listen, I'm not going to ever be the guy screaming at clouds because, first of all, I'm just way more cool than that. But more importantly, when I did see that announcement, like Mayweather to fight Jake, but I was like, I'm just off. Listen, this whole Twitch culture thing jumped the shark so many years ago, but why have we not figured that out yet? Is this purgatory? Is this lost? Is this what esports became now what Lost was supposed to be in the original of that show, Richards? It feels like purgatory. This is a nightmare. Like, next up, it's going to be Roger Federer against Logan Paul in the biggest match ever in tennis. Like, so tennis is ruined as well. Just keep going down the list.
But yeah, so they said they watched it all, and they basically sort of gave me an invite to say, they're like, listen, you know, we want the same things you want.
These hands.
yeah. They said, you know, we want the same things you want, essentially, and we're open if you've got some, you know, ideas. So I said, listen, if I send you a massive document, basically telling you what the fuck I think you need to do, sort of turn this ship around. Are you open to that? And they're like, yeah, totally. You know, we've always been open to it. So I'm gonna give it my best shot and give it the old college try. One of the things that came out of that conversation was clarification. They said that it was inaccurate reporting in the Finnish publications about Jamppi's ban. Them agreeing that he hadn't, that they agreed he hadn't cheated on the account. Essentially, they said they've agreed no such thing in the court documents. And I went to the journalist, who, funnily enough, I knew the journalist and trained the journalist. He was a Finnish guy that used to work at Cadred back in the day. He's now out there being a real journalist, and he had actually misread the court documents, and he feels terrible about it, and they corrected the record and everything. So I mean, you know, I got a lot of hate because I suppose it was like, it wasn't my report.
Your story, yeah,
it wasn't. But I had loads of people like going, Richard Lewis is, you know, he always talks about his immaculate record, but look at all the misinformation he spread. It's like, I've got no reason to doubt a fit. I mean, so the only alternative there is to get every piece of legal documentation about the court case, which is all in Finnish, have it translated by two separate translators, go through all of it and see if there's a line that contradicts the report. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation of me. But that's what some people were saying. But anyway, the bottom line is, like, I went out and essentially got them to correct the record. Now, that doesn't mean that Jamppi's lied or Jamppi's legal team has lied. It just
didn't say the opposite of that. Yeah, that's the key.
It means Valve disputes that Jamppi, that they agree that Jamppi didn't cheat on the account. And they gave like a 4-point reply to their Finnish legal team. And I put that out there, and I wanted to bring that up because obviously we've talked about it on the show. So it's important to talk about the correction on the show. So there we go. Oh, and there was one other thing that we'll talk about, and then we'll start breaking down tournaments. Did you? Right, I know you saw the clip. Well, I've had it verified now, so we can talk about it. Simple absolutely eviscerated.
I actually asked him, Robert. He confirmed it's all real as well. What he said, it's just I think he said the wrong tournament. I think he said it was a blast, and it was actually Katowice. He met him at some. But basically, the gist of everything he said was true. I know it got deleted as a clip originally. Yeah,
so I showed it on my stream when I was going through like the post CSPPA meltdown episode.
And like I told people, here's the thing, it's not even the premise of the CSPPA is enough of a problem because it's what makes the players believe it's this nonsense. But it isn't even that. It's basically just tier 1 Central European and North American pros. That's it. That's what the CSPPA should be called. Because as you're going to point out now, if you're in like fucking China or Russia, you don't feel like you're represented by CSPPA. In fact, they actually directly have different business interests potentially than you because of some of the shit they're involved in.
Yeah, and you know, look, I'll just put it this way. So he explained what had happened, and that was that, first of all, he was personally dubious about the CSPPA from the get-go because they organized a meeting in Katowice or wherever it was, and the guy was fucking late.
Yes.
The rep didn't even turn up to his own didn't even turn up to his own meeting on time. So they were immediately at their noses
him afterwards and said that he wasn't contractually obliged to make that meeting. So
yeah, probably. So get this. Get this, because I've been doing some research because I wanna learn more. I want to make sure my assumptions are correct. I want to make sure I'm on the right side. So I've been interviewing people, and mate, the stuff I've heard from behind the scenes at the CSPPA, it's even worse than I thought it was going to be. So, and this is confirmed by what Simple said. So you know how it was framed. The reason they went on strike is because an analyst had listened to comms,
someone leaked it or something,
then leaked the information to someone else, and that this is obviously unacceptable, and they had to take action to ensure it didn't happen again.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, what Simple said in his clip, and from talking to the people behind the scenes, here's what really happened. Somebody who was and it's not even necessarily a specific person, but some people who have worked as analysts have had access to those comms and have then gone on to be coaches or other roles around teams.
Okay, that's a different premise, but I get the premise.
Right.
Yeah,
and as a result of this,
Moses, for example,
certain players got mega triggered about the possibility that those comms could be then used in their new job. And so as a result of this, the CSPPA...
It's not an actual incident that they're claiming. It was just the premise of it. Because I get the premise. Listen, it's a scary concept, but it didn't actually happen, though.
There is, as far as I'm aware, not a specific instance of it happening.
And they went to fucking war over that.
It is predicated on the fear of it happening.
That's even worse, because as I say, listen, by the way, if that actually had happened, that would be fairly outrageous. By the way, that's even a good argument if you're pro players. I can't argue against it, Rich. If someone says to me, well, how would it be fair, for example, I knew he wasn't really an analyst at the end, but obviously Moses has worked as an analyst.
Yeah.
How is it fair that in theory, if he'd worked with me as an analyst on Blast and we were listening to the comms, and a month later he joins Team Liquid, he could just use things he learned from Evil Genius's comms against him. Now, I will say it's very rare you're ever getting stuff you could actually use directly. It's more like, just knowing who does what and how the team...
One lit. Right, guys, they're using the one lit theory. I
think that there is something to the... I understand as a player why you'd be scared about that. But the idea that you went to tools down, this is DEFCON 1, over the premise it could happen. That's crazy. That seems like such a weird... Dude, that's like that thing where it's like, oh, don't ever press that red button. What happens? Like, that's the end of the world. Well, are you pressing it immediately?
It gets worse. I have seen the comms that prove they were going to go on strike at the last Blast episode.
Okay.
The last Blast event, and the Blast got together and fixed the issues in terms of who had access, how often they could dip in. They came up with a strategy that completely satisfied the teams.
Like I heard eventually, I think Londa's even said this, that eventually you couldn't even hear if you were an analyst at the Blast. It was just for the production team or something, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't even a real concern at the time. And Simple's confirmed this, and I've had it privately concerned, and I've seen communications that validate this.
Seems plausible.
It was a total sham of a strike. It was a total sham predicated on
just
the
for PR then?
Well, it was predicated on the fact that they knew the players had such a bee in their bonnet about it. The CSPPA knew they could keep poking that. And so what net goal has been achieved, but by any of this? Absolutely none. And when you've got Simple, like arguably the best player in the world, eviscerating your union and saying, I don't see the point of being in it. This is a guy, by the way, who's in a CIS organization. So he knows a fucking thing or two about, oh God, if only I had rights. Right? We jokingly said when he re-signed that contract with Na'Vi, the guy with the Kalashnikov was just out of shot. We know what goes on in the CIS region. So, if anything,
he should be clamoring for CSPPA, yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't buy it. And I think it's terrible optics. I interviewed a number of players who said that they want to leave, but now they don't. If they leave, because it's got they keep boasting about their 300 members, but in actual fact, it's about 20 that drive the whole thing.
Okay.
They say if we leave now, we're going to get frozen out by the union that exists, and how do we make another player union? So people are just going along for the ride. And get this will blow your mind. This is another tier 1 player told me this. Tier 1. They wanted to get some insight into what sort of talks were going on, with these leagues and with these TOs. And members of the board told him, we can't tell you, we're under NDA. That's your union representation.
Within your own org? What would that even mean?
Well, I don't know if it means they're under NDA from the TOs or they're under NDA from the CSPPA. But the bottom line is, if your union representation can't sit you down and tell you, this is what I did for you, this is what happened in the talks, that's mental.
Yeah, how can they represent you?
Yeah. So, listen, I'm out there picking at the sides. I want to be wrong. I want to go, in my fantasy land, I'll take the hit. I want the CSPPA to be a positive force. I want to go to Scoots and say, yeah, you're right, mate. I fucked up on that one. I jumped the gun. But the more and more I learn about it, the worse and worse it gets.
Exactly.
And that's the sad truth about it, man. So, I don't know if that gives you even more cause for concern.
In a way, put it this way, that does make it seem like the alarming thing there is I don't even know if people can fix it from inside then. Because it sounds like unless you are a very select amount of players, you have no access to the levers of power. It's just a bunch of these Danish guys at the top doing whatever, along with, it sounds like it's on Mad Conversation, it sounds like it's about 10 people involved with everything. And they're just the players, this fucking ominous force that just gets consulted somehow, someone just tuning into the Star Wars force or something. I don't get it, because to me, the whole premise would be, surely CSPPA themselves see this as a warning sign that all these pro players are directly tweeting about them. Dude, some of the people battling the Chris J's of the world were those players who got fired from their jobs earlier this year. That's rough. That's some shit where people are outside the mind. I need money for my kids' family. It's mate, how does that not pull at your heartstrings? Come on.
Yeah, totally.
By the way, one thing I can't handle about the CSPPA is if the CSPPA really does have, because when we see these public figures come forward, they're all people we know from the community, right? If they have all this human face to them, Richard, where the fuck are they on all these shows? What talk shows do they ever go on? What interviews do they ever do? They don't do anything, because here's the thing. If people haven't noticed, and here's the warning sign that you're dealing with someone who's pathological, they're like game devs. They have it in the back of their head. Why should I talk to you? What do I owe you? What have you ever done for me? I hate anyone I see that behavior in. I always stay clear of them, because they're always just arseholes. And I've seen that, I've felt that. I've heard stories that people have asked them to come on shows. They just said no. They're flat out. They haven't even got anyone who's a community liaison, have they?
They swerved me. They swerved me, and I know one of the podcasts that they swerved. This was just before or around the time they launched the mental health initiative, and I think all the Astralis drama had popped off. And basically, they had already agreed to go on one podcast, and I was already tapping them out about doing an interview with me, maybe another special episode of this show where you're not there. And, I give them as fair a platform as I can. But they basically said, yeah, we'll have to reschedule. And they told the other podcast for an indeterminate amount of time. And I agree. I think they've got I think basically there's nothing to be gained from them coming out and talking to us. We're going to ask them hard questions, and the best they can do are political answers or lies.
That's a bad sign in itself, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, right?
Because if I had to say, the number one thing they could do to turn it around would be to have someone who has charisma come on shows and argue their side. Just as you say, they know they haven't got a leg to stand on, really. So there's no point, is there? It's a waste of everyone's time.
And there you go. Since he's in the chat and says I can confirm it, it was Pika's advantage, which I consider, when By the Numbers gets retired, they are the legacy podcast waiting in the wings to take over. So.
I mean, there'll be fuck all left for you, lads. We're going to leave this motherfucker like 1.6.
Oh, we're picking the bones right now, bitches. Yeah. So, let's get into the tournaments. What have we got? There's so many. I want to go right back to, I think it was the DreamHack Masters Winter, which is an important one to talk about. We'll start with NA. Chaos is sort of the big story that came out of this. I don't really want to break it down too much.
It's the fact that because it was like a week and a half ago, the team's already dead by the time we get to this story. That's how fucking dire NA is right now. The team won the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously we know the big names have sort of decamped to Europe and they're not there. They're not in representing themselves in the NA tournaments right now. And this has created something of a gulf. But obviously with all the other teams pulling out in NA, it's created this weird world where, like, not being disparaging, but suddenly Mythic are a competitive team.
Yes.
This is
exactly.
This is
a funsy team.
Yeah, this is a funsy team with streamers and people like that on it, and they are suddenly getting not only getting into these tournaments, but actually, they're not even placing last.
No, they're
having competitive games. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, that just tells you where NA is at the moment, and even the Mythic guys admit that. They're like, the fact that we're getting 56 at a fucking DreamHack Masters is ridiculous. But anyway, Chaos were able to win this. You can only beat what's in front of you. I always say that. And they beat Team One, who are a decent Brazilian lineup. So this win was their second tournament win for them in a row, because they won that Beijing. Was it Beijing Haidan? They won before at the NA bracket of that. So this tells you what you're looking at right now. You have a team that finally turns the corner. And even though these are like A-tier tournaments on paper, we have to sort of knock them down to B-tier just by virtue of the other teams that are attending. But, this Chaos were one of the most improved teams in NA anyway. And now they're actually winning. And their org's cutting them. Their org with celebrity investors and all of this, they're deciding it's not worth keeping these guys around. And I know from talking to these guys, it's a modest salary. It wouldn't have took
on much at all.
Yeah, it wouldn't have took a lot to keep these guys going. And it's sad because all indicators are that it looks like, well, first of all, they're going to Valorant, and second of all, the team might not even go to Valorant as a cohesive unit. They might get smashed apart.
Yeah, wait a minute. Your point there is not like a small one that we should skip over.
Yeah, totally.
This is the thing. I didn't know who Chaos was until Steel and this team signed with them, because I was following them in Counter-Strike, and this is the org that we're on. And I didn't know like I'm not that up to on the teams that are from COD and other games. Basically, unless you come from the games I'm from, I probably don't know your org as well. So I was actually amazed when I saw all that shit. Like, they were the ones that were flexing with like Pusha T and all those fucking super famous people involved. Right? If these people are involved, then you haven't just cut them a check for 50k where they do like a little Instagram thing. If they're properly involved, why is every org now a fuckboy who just tries to chase around whoever the hot girl is? In this case, whatever game is popping at the moment. Like, wow, this is the game I am into. Because here's the problem, Richard. They don't have a team in LCS. They don't have teams that are in profitable games. Like, why are they pulling out CS? Because as you say, if people knew what this team got paid, this is one of those teams in that camp of like fucking heroic big where it's like, my God, look at the results you're getting for the money you're paying. You're the min-max guy. Why are you the one pulling out? Like, that just show, like, that can't even just be CS. It can't just be that CS is bad business. That's almost like on their part. That makes me question what that org's doing in esports. Like, they don't even have big games. Like, what games are they huge in aside from CS?
I mean,
I'm going to guess it's some shite like Rocket League or something, right? It can't be anything big. It's not in the big games, that's for sure. There's no Dota. I mean, way back in the day.
Well, I mean, they were founded.
That was a long time ago now.
Yeah, they're
not in league. Like, mate, what? Yeah, so what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and it's crazy because like these things do not, like, they don't mesh together. On Monday you're doing an announcement saying, hey, look at all these celebrity musicians that are investing in our org. Here's our new range of merch. Isn't it all sick? And then by Wednesday, you're going, yeah, we're cutting our CS team. And also, as well, I do want to say this, like, I understand that maybe it's true that economic realities are kicking in. But the timing is, I mean, like, I know the players knew anyway. Don't publicly announce it while your team's at a tournament. Don't ever do that.
What the fuck is that?
Don't ever do that. It's so bad. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like, even if the players know privately, don't throw it out there publicly. All it can do is work against you. All it can do is work against you. And, they go and they win. And, like, again, talking to Vanity about it, it's like, we ain't popping corks and celebrating because we all know we still lost our jobs. We're like, yeah, we got some prize money. Weren't even all that. When you split it 5 ways. It's just sad, and it's been like so ridiculously mismanaged. I mean, the madness is as well. The idea this was like they had foresight about what was happening. They were sort of saying Steel before he moved to Valorant. They were saying to him, you should stick around, maybe, They would have tanked his career. He would have missed out on an opportunity to be on one of the biggest Valorant teams right now. So yeah, they don't seem to know what they're doing. It strikes me as very much common or garden incompetence over there. And it makes you wonder, like, whenever I see celebrity investors, I always just think to myself the same thing. How much?
Yeah, exactly.
How
cynical,
much?
Innit?
Yeah, because I know from my time at E-League when I used to meet the sports stars who used to come in, and, I'd talk to guys from the NBA, talk to baseball guys, talk to broadcast people. Sometimes there'd be other, celebrities that were doing a show, they were having a tour, and they'd all got a piece of some org, But it would always be something really small. And it would always have been like as part of a big consortium they were in. It was never them going out and sort of having a punt and understanding it. In fact, I would go so far as to say the only people I've ever met that are real celebrities that I do think have a handle on the esports thing was Rick Fox, obviously, who made a point to know the lay of the land. And even that, you see how that worked out for him. And then Lupe Fiasco, funnily enough, who was really all about that shit. He even was talking about quitting music to be a fucking competitive Street Fighter player. So he really loves that shit. But, like the rest of them, I think it's like they get a call from a guy on the phone and they say, like, oh, yeah, the C-Sports thing, it's really popping off right now. And, that consortium you're in? And it's got some mad name like, Vulture Enterprises. That thing you're in with Shaq and all the other basketball stars? Do you want to take 1% in this org? And it's like it represents such a small amount for them. And it doesn't actually move the dial of what you need to do to be like a competitive esports organization whatsoever. And it's like, again, the optics of that are terrible. Big money announcement Monday, firing a team on Wednesday. It's like, I'm never going to think that's okay. But overall, I mean, like, I'm hoping that we can still turn the corner and maybe find a financial solution for Chaos. Because I don't know about you. I actually feel this is a team that can legitimately get better and legitimately go places. I think Vanity, Xeppaa, and Leaf, and that's no respect to Marquee or Jonji, but I think that's a core that actually, if it stays in CS, could go on to achieve things.
Sure. I mean, I actually think that's probably the most impressive thing. It's like the old version of the team. What was insane was that obviously they kept losing the talent and they had to restock when they had steel, but they always had steel. I've actually been quite impressed by the job that Vanny's done since he's took over. Like, they're actually still a pretty good team. I thought they would drop off immediately, and it was just like the ones who could frag and be good. But no, as a team, they've actually stayed good. Again, yeah, I agree. If you wanted to buy into CS right now, this would be one of the keys where you'd say, look at the core of this team. If you don't want to buy in for the maximum amount, you don't want to go and try and buy, well, it would have been the former 100 Thieves team or maybe EG's team or someone out there, someone who maybe at one point wanted to sell. This would be the other team you tell people to buy. Like, some of these players are obvious pickups. It's just the point is at the moment, there's like no fucking room at the inn for some reason in much Vogs, is there? So I don't even know what's going on there. I mean, it was even implied with that Gen G shit. Maybe more teams are just tanking now. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, people are saying that Leaf's already, moved over to the Cloud9
They claimed that he was moving to that team,
Yeah,
right?
I saw that. And Vanity did a tweet as well the other day saying he signed a deal. But when I talked to him, he said it wasn't a Valorant deal. It was something else. He was just sort of memeing because that's what he does. But I'm going to just say this. Like, I mean, right, given how well Grim has worked out for Team Liquid, I don't think it's insane that Team Liquid should maybe be thinking, hang on, we could pick up a Leaf, we could pick up a Xeppaa, maybe Vanity even, because remember, he's an IGL, and I think Twists is so far off the pace right now where he needs to be as a player. I think he's the problem. I never thought I would say that. I thought, like, we would be sat here at the end of 2020 going, yep, Stewie's got to go, the IGL experiment has failed or whatever. I don't think Stewie's the problem at all. I think it's suboptimal to have him as IGL, but I think Twists has been so poor lately, and again today, as we're doing the show, that I think these are the types of players you should be looking to blood and bring into NA organizations if they're available,
Which they surely are in light of the current context. Probably at rock bottom prices.
Yeah, totally. Maybe no price at all, right? So there was that. That was the NA. DreamHack Winter. The European one, more interesting for sure. Lots to talk about here. Let's just start and then we can segue into a couple of big topics and then we'll talk about the winners. But let's just do it. Let's talk about ENTs. Oh boy, because then we can go into all of the drama. And once again, by the numbers was right. We don't tell you no lies on this show. We don't tell you no lies on this show. I don't know. We've been saying it now 6-7 years, whatever the fuck it's been. We don't tell you no lies. And every time you doubt us and, what do you guys know? More than you, always.
You have to understand this, guys. Always. It was like this. There's the village up here at the top of the stream where the pro players live. Then there's our village halfway down. And you get at the fucking bottom. That's how it goes. Yeah. It comes to us first.
Yeah, that's exactly how it flows. So let's get into this. So ENTs were rock bottom here, and I mean, like, I don't know how to sort of frame what's going on any better than if you just go look at their graph. Look at what they've done in terms of what the results they've had and their world ranking since October. They have tanked from 18 to 34th. It's like watching the Jets up in this motherfucker. It's absolutely embarrassing. They lose to everyone. Go look at their results page. Go look at their Pro League performances. Losing to Big, Mousesports, OG, struggling against AGO, losing to Godsend. Go look at
10 best of 3 in a row, apparently.
Yeah. Go look at it's that, mate. They've lost to North, they've lost to Nip, they've lost to Complexity. I think with a stand-in, they lost to the Colossus, right? And it's bad. It's fucking bad. They have got all sorts of problems and dead last at this DreamHack Masters event, and then it happens. I don't think I've ever seen a podcast go so badly.
It's mad, isn't it?
For one team ever. I mean,
I'll even say this, by the way. I think the timing of that podcast was mad sauce. Because the timing of that, like, I don't know if people knew this, but I already, from like a day before, had in the can a talk show episode with Alexi B. Well, by the way, we didn't even go into any of that. We didn't go into any drama because I wanted it to just be about who he is and IGL and stuff. But it's almost like Alu tried to just get ahead of the problem and just put all of his fucking excuses out there. Like the timing of that, the idea everyone would turn against you after you came out and tried to say the right thing. Like, mate, that whole thing just looked like he knew the daggers were poised around him like Caesar. And he just tried to fucking go first, as it were, in politics.
But let me tell you this. This is indicative. This is indicative of, like, I don't know what's going on with the management ends, but you got to raise your game. You got to raise your game. How dumb do you have to be? Like, I said this to Henry the other day, because he was like he goes, I thought I had problems. And I said, mate, the idea that they cannot grasp that Sergey's just left to go to the military, and obviously, if you're choosing, be a pro gamer, go do national service. If you're opting for national service, you're not having a good time in your team. Just saying that. We all, you know, we all have to do it. For some Finns, it's a point of pride. I get it. But if you want to walk away from being one of the best players in the world at your sport to go do your national service and do fucking burpees all day and running around talking about the Russians or whatever, like, I think you're not having a good time in your day-to-day basis. So you know you've just lost Sergey. And you know now that because you've lost him, he's not going to fucking hold back. You cunts didn't even take him to the tournament that you crapped out dead last in. You used the stand-in. You know, you wouldn't Sadadix or whatever he's called. Like, you wouldn't even take Sergey to have one last hurrah. Do you think he's going to respect your code of secrecy and silence now? So first of all, you got to know that's out there in the wind. You got to know enough about the game to know there's a fucking twitlonger coming. I'll tell you that for free. And you better be afraid of that twitlonger, because we all know it's not going to put the team in a good light. And maybe it's not going to put the org in a good light. Not only do you dickheads not get ahead of that, you throw Arlu, a man who was so, like, just brazenly disillusioned and incapable of understanding the nuances of PR. What do you mean, Richard? This is a man who retweets pictures of his own testicles. And when asked, shouldn't you probably delete that? He goes, no, but if I do that, then the person I made a bet with wins. Right? Maybe he's not the PR master.
I know.
Right? Maybe he's not the PR master, guys. And so you let fucking Arlu, Lord of the Bollocks, onto a fucking podcast.
Now, to be fair, it was the most fucking layup podcast in the whole scene. You know, it is the one where they're giving you a hot stone massage and going, wow, what do you think tonight? Should players just decide everything or what? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Like, it is that one. But even so, even they're going to ask some questions that could get awkward. Come on, boys.
For sure. And so, you know, while he's doing this podcast, and Sam, I'm not going to link you to these, but I know you can earn your money. You can go and find them. Sergey tweets out saying,
"It's your admin podcast, good news."
Yeah, go on. Right,
all right,
right, and one of the Easter eggs has a shiny pound coin in it, Sam. So go find it. But anyway, Sergey fucking says it's listen, you shouldn't be listening to what Arlu was saying. You know, like, I'm not going to get into it, but he's not telling the whole truth right now. And then you're like, fucking hell, that's pretty explosive. This is while he's on air, by the way. So this is like Arlu's just got sort of like, you know how it is. He's on a podcast. He's half listening to the interviewer. He's getting tweeted. His phone's vibrating. He's having a fucking nightmare. But what makes the story more mental is, like, mate, Sergey's a disgruntled employee at this point. He's going to say things. He's going to say things. Sonny is not only in the team, like, by all accounts, he was given the in-game leadership role.
Yeah.
And he comes out and goes, yeah, Arlu's telling some truth, but not the whole truth right now.
No, it's the way everything's so vague as well.
Mate, it's a fucking mutiny.
And then
it's a real-time mutiny.
Because Ariel just went out in his little biplane and he's just spelled out in the clouds, Arlu equals question mark? Like, why are they all going so in and then just pulling out last second, like, teasing you? Like, tell you what, I think that Arlu's a cut. What? Never mind what you
right. It gets better, mate. Because I was doing a stream when all this was happening live. And I was talking about it with my stream. And as you might know, my Discord is basically like a Finnish enclave. Like, okay, I've just got loads of Finns who work there, and so they follow all of the players on social media and stuff.
Right.
And a Finnish guy told me that Sonny removed Arlu from all social media. Like,
people are still doing the like 13-year-old teenage girl shit of like,
oh yeah,
I'm not friends with him anymore. You're out my world.
Yeah.
Banish him from the land. Like,
imagine it, mate. Imagine if like me and you had a fucking beef now, like over something stupid, like Richard, I really didn't like the creative direction of the last episode of By the Numbers or something like that, and I just go, right, Duncan, enough's enough, mate, and I unfollow you
off everything. Everything.
That's it, mate. I'm never gonna see another self-aggrandizing Instagram post by you. You know, like, what punishment is this? So anyway, yeah, they've removed him. It's a relationship that is clearly soured ridiculously. And there was other players coming out. Sergey alluded that it was a mental health issue. And
definitely throw those words in there. Just toss a pipe bomb in on the way out.
What does that mean?
I know, exactly.
What does that even mean? So now I was left going, well, what's going on, mate? So even before the show, right? And there you go, Sam. I've got this one ready for you, mate. So you
what about that mad one where like Alu's
you can stop being Annika Rice for 5 minutes.
Popping up fucking tweets as well.
Yeah, so here you go, right? So oh no, that isn't even it. I've given you the wrong one. Sorry, mate. I haven't actually got it for you. There was a Reddit post today. Hang on, where was it? Fuck. Yeah, wasn't that. There was some podcast. Oh, here it is. So, host of the Finnish podcast. This is the one, Sam. Here you go, mate. I got it for you. There you go. So, apparently,
this one, yeah.
Host of the Finnish podcast, Urheilukast. I don't know how to speak your language. It sounds like the fucking Urukai that were bred by Saruman just to keep this episode Lord of the Rings centric. But it's all in Finnish. And basically, apparently, what he was saying was that, Alu was just super jealous. He felt he was the star and the leader of the team, and Alexi B was getting all of the love and all of the praise, especially by those two cunts, Fatty and Ratty, that do that podcast. made that bit up. Throwback for all the old school viewers. But yeah, we were sucking Alexi B's dick because obviously he's legit. He's a great in-game leader. And apparently, because of that, it just bred like fucking some hateful little seed in his brain, and he wanted to usurp him off the back of that. So, I mean, I don't know. This cunt could just be talking shit.
I'll say that part about the contract is something I'd heard something along those lines.
Right.
It's not have got him to sign before they sold him so they can actually get like money from him or whatever. Which,
right.
Listen, it is what it is. But like that does sound a bit sus as well. It's like if you already know, it's one thing if you sign the guy in good faith and you wanted to work with him and then you have to sell him. Yeah, it's one thing. But like if you actually did that just to get like a big buy, that's a little bit dodgy. Just a little bit though.
So anyway, by the end of the podcast, where Alu is thinking, like, I nailed it. I will go on Twitter now and maybe tweet out pictures of my balls, maybe my bell end this time. Ents put up a tweet the next day. We are doing a full investigation of the revelations. Like, mate, I have never seen a podcast appearance trigger an investigation of the team into the conduct of all players. And I'll tell you, mate, what I'm hearing behind the scenes is I think Alu's out. I think he's out the team.
It sounds like he needs to be if every single other person doesn't trust him in the org anymore. Like, you've just got no future, have you?
But you brought this up and people didn't believe you when you told that story about the reason you were the reason Alexi B didn't get into phases because Alu basically said he's a cunt and a narcissist and all this other stuff.
I think that's just kind of his MO. It's like I said, this is why people are complicated and you just can't expect as a fan you're going to get like a snapshot that's going to represent them completely. Because Alu is another person in the category with Fallen, where if you meet him at a bar, at an event, he'll be a great guy, it'll be a great conversation.
Love drinking with Ali.
Yeah, the problem is you never know. People switch into different mindsets when they're in different situations. So there's just certain people when it comes to business, or in this case, like work relationships. Some people are just cunts about those specific things only, bizarrely. You know, It doesn't somehow permeate the rest of their life. But when you get them in that one area, and I made this point when I was talking to Alexi B on my podcast, actually, was basically one of the problems with the Finnish scene always was they took that like Nordic, like, you know, awkwardness with social settings to like another level where they're the ones where when they kick you out the team, there's just never a conversation about it. You just they kick you out the IRC channel, you go, fuck, I guess I'm out. And then a year later when you come back, you just pretend like nothing changed. Like, oh, all right, I'm back, lads. It's like the no conversation had. So as a result, like this is just the hyper extreme drama version of that, where for whatever mad reason, nobody said a single thing publicly, and now the dam's just broken. Like, yeah, I'd heard like things like that in the past, but they held it together somehow. Now it sounds like it's just completely fucked. Like the entire thing is, you have to just start over now if you want to start Ents again.
If your own teammates have had enough and they are willing to go public while you're on air, and then the org has to come in and promise an investigation to try and calm things down. We've said this team is dysfunctional. Listen, you don't go from being the number 2 team in the world to suddenly deciding you're going to kick your in-game leader to plummeting in the ranking to the point where you were worse than fucking MIBR and you're now ranked 34th in the world, and it is still fucked up. It is still fucked up. You're still battling desperately as well. You've got the Jamppi lawsuit on the side. You're bringing in new players. You're selling players to Harvu that were on the bench that aren't coming back. It is a fucking mess. And I think basically, you know, it looks like Sonny's going to be the last man standing. You know, it's fucking crazy what's happened to Ents. And management have to take responsibility, but man alive, I've never seen a podcast destroy a team before. Apart from ours.
The thing is, though, like, obviously it goes without saying. No, the thing I can understand, though, about it is this is the trouble, unfortunately, with projects like Ents, where when they made Ents, and for about basically until about this year, Alan was always overqualified to be on that team. He was just on that team because he's finished and he knows the guys involved and probably had equity initially, I assume. So, like, in that scenario, that was always the ticking time bomb, which is whenever you hitch your wagon completely to one player, if that player basically behind the scenes goes off the rails, you're in deep shit at that point in time. It's happened in the past with G2 and Shocks, and you know, like it's happened with a bunch of different, obviously FaZe and Nico. Like when you cater too much to that one guy's demands, well, the problem is that'll work as long as he is legit and he like has the same interests as you. If eventually they just become a little tin pot dictator, you're in deep shit. And so, unfortunately, they must know now they've catered to him too much. Like if he's really out, then they might be on the right track now. It's time to just start over.
And now we need to do the thing we always knew we were going to do. Duncan, let me take you. I'm going to put you into the green room mindset.
All right.
Because now, unfortunately, it is time where we must talk about Team Liquid and possibly our beloved little Momo.
There we go. It's not good, is it?
Well, I mean, let's be real. I think we've given a wide berth at bringing up this topic. But, you know, and we've given him enough time to sort of start assessing what's going on. And I'll also tell you, like I told Henry, like I told Yanko, like I told Jason, like I'll tell anyone, this job is the ultimate poison chalice.
Oh, of course.
It was one of the dumbest jobs he could have took. I'm sure it's going to work out financially.
Oh, of course.
I'm sure he's going to have great memories from it when he's able to look back in 5 years. But right now, if he had hair, he would have lost it. You know, this was such an insanely stressful job to pick, where you're the coach of the most emo team ever assembled. And this team has forgotten how to win, and you've got star players that have forgotten how to play, and your best player is the question mark player that you brought in recently. And you have gone from when Jason took over, they were 6th. No,
must be around there.
Yeah, they were 7th in the rankings. And they are now 17th, and they've just had a loss again to Na'Vi. And they should have won their map pick. I watched it just before I come on the show. Great clutches from Perfecto, but they threw so many rounds. Twists had something like 8 kills in regulation, 9 kills. There are problems in Liquid. Let's talk about those first of all. As I said earlier, I think Twist has got to go. I don't think there's a world he can stay. I don't think he's the same player he's been in the past. And for whatever reason, he just isn't himself. And I don't know if that's because of Stewie and his leadership style, or Moses and his coaching style, or it's a personal issue. Rumors swirling around that he's actually got his heart set on Valorant. There were also rumors swirling around that Twists had been shopped out to other orgs, but with no NA orgs fucking buying, because they're all leaving. Unfortunately, he was left stuck on the books, but the org are receptive to offers. I've heard it all, mate. So
I've also heard some similar things, like when there was some other big teams looking for players. I heard, believe it or not, that there was like 1 or 2 Team Liquid players potentially were on the brink. But the problem with that org is until someone signs, it's always just a rumor. It's never true, is it, lads? Except for that one with that guy reported last year that definitely was fake. But So.
Yeah.
He was just unlucky. He's the one he picked the one time that wasn't actually a rumor.
Yeah, no.
No, I agree. Put it this way. Twists is an example of what Woxic was at the end of Mouse Sports. It's like, if you just look at the guy's day-to-day level, how can you keep him around? Like, it's not good. It's just really bad, isn't it? Remember, this guy's supposed to, in theory, be the best player in your whole team, potentially. Yeah. So you don't want to kick him, same as with Woxic, because the logic goes like this. Well, what if I kick him and then a month later he gets his shit together and then we go on LAN again and he's amazing and I've just given away like a quality franchise piece? But the problem is, just like the Woxic example, put it this way, I'm sure Mouse Sports, no matter what happens to Woxic, are glad they kicked him now. Like, look at what, like, he was holding their team back. Eventually, they had to cut it off, rip the band-aid straight off, and just get on with their lives. In that scenario, I've always said this, whether it's about like beef or whatever, because you know the other angle that players always do is they leave because they're like having an argument with someone in your team. Then they beat you and they're like, oh, I've got revenge. Yeah. So I'll prove I'm right. It's like, well, you wouldn't have had that revenge if you were in our team still dickhead. Like, maybe you'd just still be a disruptive force and our team would be broken. Like, sometimes you got to move on. So I don't hate that as a move. Like, one of the problems I think this team's going to have right now is everything combined. It's that they've got players playing bad. They look like they're still lost in terms of the IGL thing overall. Like, I haven't been very convinced with the moves they've made. I get why they took these choices, but hasn't worked out like it should. They still have an incredible amount of talent in the team, so there's no excuse for it. You can't even say, like, here's the difference. Mouse Sports now even started to get so that they didn't look that great in terms of some of the players. Team Liquid still have some straight fire players. Like, some of these players are still really strong. Even Grey Moon's coming's been good. So,
but this is why it's the poison chalice.
Changes. Oh, it is for sure. Like, basically, there's only two ways this goes if you're Moses. You win everything, and there'll still be a dickhead who will go, look at the players you had. Or you have the Yanko world, where it's like you do everything but win, and now you're just forever vilified as a moron who knew nothing.
Well, this is why I bring it up. You know, the fans, I'm hearing lots about Bald Fraud. You know, that's what they're... And the reason for that is because I don't know how much you follow football these days, but obviously that's what they call Guardiola, and he's fallen into that madness.
Just mental, isn't it?
Yeah, he's fallen into that madness.
I've also seen this now, Richard. I've now seen both Jose Mourinho and Guardiola called like not legit coaches at football. Like, I've seen too much now, Rich. I need to get. I'm like. Here's the difference. I'm like Roy Batty. If he was like, I'm just going to top myself. I've seen too much, Richard. I've seen chips on fight.
Yeah, but that's the madness. Like, obviously, think about Guardiola and everything he's achieved.
The legend.
But because people say, well, he did it with Barcelona's best ever team. He, and then he goes to Bayern. He wins. The fans don't actually like him at Bayern. If you talk to Bayern fans,
okay.
Won a Bundesliga. But I think because he didn't get a Champions League out there, people didn't like him. He's gone to City. He won a Premier League with them.
How much more do you want?
Yeah, but like obviously he's having a bit of a struggles now at the moment. But I think he's a legit manager. I think as well. I like the style of play that he's enforced. But the meme around Guardiola is he's a bald fraud. That's what they call him, the bald fraud. And obviously you know what it's like out there on the internet. So that's what people are saying about Moses now. So on the one hand, it's a compliment because he's getting compared to Guardiola, one of these great coaches of all time. But yeah, he's in Guardiola's world right now. He's got a team that was the number one team in the world. So the expectation is you win everything, right? You have to. You said you could fix this. You're the coach, you're the genius. And obviously, through no fault of his own, a lot of these players are fucking emo. These players aren't working. Like maybe Twist does have his eye on going over to Valorant and becoming like a Wardell figure, making loads of money, being a top streamer, photo shoots, all of that shit. And maybe his heart isn't in CS anymore. And it's like, as a coach, that's an intangible. You can't do anything about that except cut the player. And if there's no one to replace the player, you're in a world of hurt. You're in a world of hurt. And also, it's not even as simple as cut the player, because you got an owner telling you, well, you're not cutting our player. We can sell him for fucking $750,000. And you're like, not in this economy, not in this market.
Yes.
So I think Jason's put himself in this like impossible position, and I'm sympathetic. But let's also just state the facts. We didn't take it easy on Yanko. Right now, that team is going backwards.
Yes.
I hate to say it.
There's two angles to this. One, I definitely agree. Like, put it this way, only knowing what I can know from the outside, looking at the team, it doesn't look like Moses has done a great job. Or if he has, the players aren't responding, which, by the way, also means you haven't done that great a job. You haven't got the buy-in. You haven't got people to understand what you're saying. Like, your plan might be great, but if you can't execute it, like, results is the only thing that matters in this business, mate. That's the business you've picked. This is the actual irony of it all, is that when you're a caster, you can have a million Reddit threads that say you're a cunt. As long as the TO likes you, you get hired again, mate. Like, the difference is in this game, being a manager, you can be the best IGL manager ever, privately with all accounts from all the players. But if the results aren't there, you get fired. That's why it happens all the time in sports. Players complain that they fire a manager that they like. It's like, mate, you're bottom of the league. Like, what do you expect? Like, can't just keep him forever. And then on the other side of the equation, this is the part people don't get when they take those jobs, Richard, which is the mistake I've learned from seeing friends do this now. Yanko, Moses, maybe it'll be Henry, who knows, is I get why they do it. The problem is, because their other career is so successful, they're literally the best in the world at what they do, making an enormous amount of money. What they say is this, right, well, I'm only going to go and do that other thing if I can just jump ahead of the queue and get right in there at the meet and I want to win championships immediately. Problem with that, mate, is there's a learning curve to your job of being a GM, of being a coach, whatever it might be. And so no matter how brilliant you were in your other job, what are the odds you're going to just moonwalk in and start winning everything right off the bat? You're not. Like, mate, I'll just say this. People won't know this because they don't know esports history. Zonic was the coach of Astralis when they became Astralis, right? Go and look this up. That was the worst year of their careers together.
Yeah.
That was like the year that they all fucking dipped and everything went to shit and they couldn't win anything. And they were in a position where it was like, fuck, where are we even going as a team? Hence why they made that blockbuster move to remove Carrigan and bring in fucking Glaive, who was in the wilderness effectively. So in that scenario, it's not like Zonic's first year was awesome and he's supposed to be the hands down goated fucking best ever coach. So what I would say is I've looked at the people who've been coaches, all the great ones. It takes years to warm up into that shit. It's like thinking you could go from being a player to an IGL and you'll immediately be the best IGL. No, you won't. You might be a good one. You might have a lot of great quality. So basically the concern I have is these guys only want to play it on nightmare mode. And if you play it on nightmare mode, you can't then go, it was bloody hard, wasn't it? It's like, yeah, no shit. You took the best team in the world, you idiot. You had to win. So I get why they do it. I wouldn't take a day like that otherwise. But part of me wishes someone would go, this is going to be really fucking hard though, right? Like this might be too hard even.
That's my next opinion piece that's coming out for Deserto, by the way. Basically saying like, why wreck yourself? I think it's like, it does show what an incredibly privileged position to get into. Like, where you can be at the top of something, walk away from it and go do something incredibly difficult in the public eye. And almost like the hubris it requires, but also sort of combined with, I don't think people realize like it is a different ball game. It's very hard to be the best at one thing and then transition and go and be the best at someone else.
And mate, that goodwill doesn't last long. Like you get that for a couple of months and already they're asking for your head. You see that already.
It's already happened. It's already happened. There's a lot of people that are laying the blame on Moses. Mate, I'll tell you, I see them Team Liquid players playing when the rounds are hard and they're not talking and Jason's behind them and they've all got a face like a fucking smacked arse on them. You know what I mean? Like I said, these are emo. These are like fucking kids. They fucking say to Jason, yeah, see you at training on Monday. Dear diary, Stewie just doesn't use me in the right position. You can fucking see it. You can fucking see it. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, you can totally see it, mate. It's bollocks. It's like, it's some fucking kids drama. I can't be
of course, he's like, well, Stewie doesn't use me in the well, shit, man. You say we got him all this shit.
Yeah.
He's ridiculous, isn't he? Yeah. He's just like the fucking Degrassi version of fucking Team Liquid or something. He just off on some Canadian shit. Who knows? Yeah.
So anyway, that's Liquid. I'm going to keep one eye on him, but I honestly think something's got to change and it needs to change soon. I mean, obviously, I know we're going into a new year, but I don't think they're going to have a good time at IEM, the global finals. I think this is a team that's forgotten how to win, and I think they've got big problems ahead.
Oh, the culture looks fucked.
Yeah, but let's move into Cloud9 because again, it's been a relative amount of time. We can assess the Caralhos as everyone's calling them, and obviously they finished 5th to 8th at the tournament we're talking about currently, which is the DreamHack Masters Winter 2020 Europe. Not a bad spot, they finished above FaZe, they finished above G2, they finished above Liquid, they finished above ENCE, LOL, and North and Spirit. These are teams, and you have to remember as well that when the Caralhos was assembled. They were like, this is how bad things had got for Cloud9. I didn't even realize this. They were ranked 225th in the world.
Why even bother after about 50 though? I've never understood why they do
that.
Yeah,
true. But 225th.
But it's like if we make a team tomorrow, they're like, you are ranked 1 million. Shut up.
Yeah.
No, we aren't, are we? That's not accurate.
I said to Henry, I said, look, mate, no matter what happens, the only way is up, you daft cunt. Like, he's aced that one. It's like, Moses goes in when they're in the top 3. Hey, guys, let's see what happens. Wah, they're like, not stonks.
No, Henry's doing the fucking Trump move where he just rocked up like, I'm in charge of the best economy. They was like, mate, you've been in the job for like 2 weeks. What are you talking about? Like, no, I did this. It's all me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, like, so obviously as well, you got to remember Henry is just the GM, but like he's like the public figure, and he is the guy who assembled the team. So we'll talk about Kassad probably.
I do appreciate that Kassad only ever gets brought in for credit. Like no one even remembers him when they're.
Oh, but no.
Next, just shitting me.
Next time, because they have just lost in that 9-5 tournament, and like you can only use the excuse it's online CS and it's Russians and they play crazy. Can only use that excuse so many times, gentlemen, before it stops washing on me. But let's talk about this.
They were half decent though.
Yeah, I mean they did. Let me just tell you, I've watched every Cloud9 game since Henry joined Cloud9. I've watched every Cloud9 game pretty much with Henry, right? Because listen, I don't know. Again, I don't want to say too much. Henry's my mate, and he's my mate outside of this game. Like, he's family. Like, if esports melts tomorrow, me and Henry are still, growing all together, and he's gonna come to my fucking funeral and all that shit, right? Like we're boys forever. So, I get up now, watch the games with him, because like for all the confidence and the bravado, he does fucking care, and he does get nervous, And so we're watching the games. I mean, I've watched every minute of every game with the exception of the Forza loss, right? Which I couldn't be arsed dragging myself out of bed for. I even told Henry before I went to bed, enjoy your 2-0 tomorrow, cunt, and went to bed. So I didn't want to be right, but the counter jinx didn't occur. So anyway, let's talk about the team. The biggest problem in this team right now. Oh, no, you know what? Before we get to problems, let's do positives. Who told you Floppy was legit? Can anyone? Oh, yeah, it was me. It was me. Who told you Floppy was actually way too good to be on the fucking team he was on?
Oh, he was, for sure, yeah.
Right? And could actually be a top NA player. Now, yes, the NA scene has died, Richard. Okay, fine. You have won that one, kids. But Floppy is fucking sick. And he's been such a breakout phenom in this team. Really, really stood out. I'll also say this. Mezii's mustache is outrageous, but you know what? It is, Sam.
It is mental. I was watching the game with Davey, mate. We both said, what's he done that for, mate? Why?
Now, apparently, he was only doing it for Movember, but I've also heard he said,
I'll get a much longer sentence in 1 month if he keeps wearing that fucking mustache that way. Tell you what, fucking hell.
But let me also tell you, right, Mezii, while I don't think he's been amazing, right, understand he looks comfortable in the company Cloud9 are currently keeping at these top tier tournaments. That's outrageous in and of itself for a player of his experience and development.
Oh, yeah, he already looks way better than he should be.
Essa tag. I know everyone's calling him price tag. Price tag.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good one, actually.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, I like it. But I think he's been mustard. I think he's looked good. Now, I'm just going to say, everyone's been. Here we go. Alex has been top fragging. Sick fragging IGL. But I'm also going to say this. While y'all are sucking his dick because you look at scoreboards, I don't just look at scoreboards. I look at, extraneous things. And I've never seen a team get ecoed as much as this Cloud9.
Sure.
Never, mate.
Some big fundamental flaws for sure.
Never in a fucking million years, mate. It's insane. As soon as the pistols come out, it's like fucking Superman with the kryptonite. Oh, God. No, Lex, no. Like, they fucking cannot win against pistols. And I'm telling you, Alex might drop 30 every fucking map, and people go, oh, look at him, he's digging him out a hole, he's sick, he's amazing. Mate, you're the IGL. You've got to fucking figure out how to not lose to pistols. Now, I'll also add, Alex has a fucking impossible task. Because let me tell you about a man called Woxic. And when they face those ecos, Woxic, you might have heard of him. Orpa, Lanimal, we called him. Brilliant at LAN. Shame it's online CS at the moment. But he just plays so aggressive and doesn't seem to be able to iron it out of his game. That the joke I've got is like, I go, ring, delivery, want to buy AVP? He goes and fucking delivers on an eco. He delivers the team an AWP every time. There's no need. I've never seen a player so willing to surrender site control for information. It's not a good trade-off. Just have the site control. If you need to do a retake, they've got worse weapons. Do the retake. They've got no utility. You have. Do the retake. But he starts roaming and he starts wandering. He's like the first to die every round, whether it's a buy or a fucking eco. But the amount of ecos they would have won if Woxic just didn't go a roaming. Like, oh, yeah, guys, I'll go out. Nukes our map, right? I've never seen a team have a map pick that's so fucking laboured either, by the way, but that's another issue. He just walks outside to red, walks into 5 Deagles. Right, guys, I've died in 10 seconds and they have an AWP now. Like, fuck me. He's got to get his head out his arse. He's been the biggest disappointment on this team by a long, long way, and he's better than how he's playing right now, and I don't know why he's playing this dog shit, but someone's got to say it.
No, I agree. Put it this way, he is clearly the worst part of the team relative to what he was supposed to do. Because here's the thing, I agree with you. I think Rezchi's been way better than I expected him to be with his experience level. Like, as you say, Floppy basically after Flashpoint just got his shit together has been pretty good. Tag, he was never going to be the best player in the world. It's just funny that he makes the same prize money, salary as if he was the best player in the world, and he isn't. Like, he's just an okay player, isn't he? But he seems fine within this team. I agree. The obvious person's Woxic. He's not the sick player he's supposed to be right now. Like, the problem with him is what you're supposed to say is he's like a Mustang. You can't tame him. You've got to just let him be wild, but he'll win you the game. The problem is, I agree at the moment, in Cloud9 at least, he's had maybe, like 2 or 3 maps where he looked really good. Aside from that, he has thrown a bunch of games. So he's the guy I want the pressure to be on because he has the skill to do it. I agree with you. He could definitely get his shit together, but he hasn't been very good in this Cloud9. So the fact that they've had that many close games, mate, how many of these could have been wins? Like, they've had every series they're in, they can always be 3 maps. They could maybe win some of these 2-0. They just can't get it done.
I mean, within the context of this competition, shit the bed hard against Mouse Sports, which is his old team. I would have backed him fucking, tap dance all over their faces. But people forget, like, when Woxic has a bad game, it's fucking cataclysmic. He had when they played Gambit, he went 4 for 19 on Vertigo. Your primary AWPer on Vertigo. 4 for 19, guys. And these are not aberrations. These are not anomalies. Go look at the numbers. Even his best days are like, he's barely breaking even. And then in the Forza game, which again, I admit I haven't watched it, but I knew straight away what was going to have happened here. They leave Mirage dangling in. They're willing to let Mirage play. I think they've got fundamental problems on Mirage, and a lot of it stems from the fact you just never know which fucking Woxic's going to turn up. 6 for 18. You're fucking killing me. It's mid control that defines that map. You're the guy that controls mid. How are you doing this? And it's like, as an advocate for Woxic and someone who's always seen him as being this like incredible energetic player, a guy who can dominate, a star in the making, it's sad to see him sell himself this short. It really is. He's better than this. And it's like, I don't know, he's making the same mistakes every game. That's the concern for me. When players don't learn. It's like a gaming IQ issue. You have to understand as an AWPer, you've talked about this many times on your videos, Duncan. As an AWPer, you exist in a weird twilight that no other player does on your team. You have to be on, but you also have to think a little bit selfishly because your gun is so expensive and you're a specialist with that weapon. So if you don't get it, you're massively neutralized. Is it better to save? People bang on Jim. Look where fucking Virtus Pro are now and what they're doing. And, he plays conservatively, but it's the right thing to do a lot of the time. And Woxic's not that guy. He doesn't have that extra dimension. And it's really hurting this Cloud9 team. Really is.
Yeah, by the way, I think James even the good contrast, because as much as I will personally criticize James, I think he does it way too much. I would literally, no joke, if he's going to play at this, I would rather have James than Woxic. Like, at least James is going to be responsible. So the problem with Woxic is exactly that, is that he is so skilled he can do almost anything, but he is too irresponsible if he's going to be the AWPer. Like, if that's just a rifle you give away, that's an AK, who gives a fuck? Like, it can happen, mate. But you can't just peek out like you're saying on rounds where you give them like a weapon like an AWP that they could turn that around on us. Even if they had pistols before, one AWP can get everything done. So, like, you have to be super responsible for the AWPer there. It's why I've never believed in all that support AWPer bullshit. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing, mate. That's just a bad AWPer who just can't get it done.
Yeah. Mouse Sports, the other team I think worthy of some attention off the back of this, finished as runners-up, and I got to say there was a sad thing that sort of happened in this final where on the deciding round there was a massive timeout before it due to some tech issue.
And then wasn't it?
Yeah, and then they made Carrigan play. They were like, listen, we can't delay it anymore, and Carrigan had to play.
It was like 1 hour delay or something mental. Yeah, it was really long.
Yeah. He said he had like 200 ping or something on the last round, and it's like it's unplayable. And not to detract anything from the winners, we'll talk about in a second. But I gotta say, for all of the negative attention around this team, and let's clarify what that is. Rumors of Carrigan going to FaZe, rumors of Chris J retiring, talk of what's going on with Rops, blah blah blah, all of this stuff. For them to get runners up at this tournament and sort of bounce back into the top 10, I think it just shows how much character the whole team has. And I love this Mouse Sports team. I love the fact that BMAS has come in and turns out Nico can be right sometimes because this kid is mustard. I think he's looked so good since he's come in the team. And you look at like Rops, Frozen, BMAS, these young talents, Chris J, the wily old veteran, had so many good maps, and he should really not be distracting himself with all the CSPPA bullshit and enjoy that last of the summer wine, before he retires. And for all the rumors about Carrigan leaving, you would never have thought it. Played with enthusiasm, great mid-round calls, reading his opponents, super competitive across a variety of maps, great motivational, calls, and you could see people were getting fired up, even though they're, doing it on their shitty little webcams or whatever. I really wanted Mouse Sports to win this. And, it's a victory of sorts that they made it to the final. They were great to watch throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I also think as well, like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Carrigan is going to leave and he's just doing it like a pro. Because as you say, here's a lesson for people like Nico. You don't just fucking give up and throw your tries out the pram and wait until someone gives you a new team before you start trying. You always keep doing your job. You're a pro. Like, we have this in our field when we do shows. What is the saying? The show must go on. You must fucking do your job. Like, I hate players who do that where they're like, well, I'm only playing bad because the teammate's playing bad and they're not going to practice, so I'm not going to put in the hours. Like, that's just some bullshit, mate. It's one of those things back in the day with that Kobe Shaq thing. I could never fuck with Shaq with. It's like, what, you're going to literally just chill during the summer and then just recover from an injury during the season. What an incredibly selfish thing to do. So, yeah, I think the way they've handled it in Mouse Sports is mega professional in light of the rumors swirling around the team. And then also, look at what, like this, Carrigan just writes chapters in his fucking career story for a laugh and makes them work. Like, he lost Woxic, the only player in theory who was like a super land-proven star. Like, Wox is still young in his career. He just had his one good year. Maybe he's going to drop off. And so how's he doing it now? He's doing it with Frozen, his other problem child, brand new player to the scene, barely played any years, except, and you notice, by the way, this is where fans have got to learn the fucking eye test. Stop telling me that Xantares and Calix 5 years ago are sick, that fucking Frozen's a god HLTV moron writers who can only understand that a number's really big and can't use their eyes. Stop telling me Frozen's sick 3 years ago. None of these players are sick. They just have good aim, dickhead. And that is not what Counter-Strike is about. Because what you find is when you push these guys into the top team and Xantares goes to big and they go, right, here goes Xantares, come on in, you're going to do this in the tactic, and then you're going to go here, and you're going to what? And he goes, you what? What do you mean? I'm just going to go with an AK and just sit where I want until I get a chance to shoot, man. No, you're going to do the tactic. Come on in, get your head in with the rest of the lads. You'll be hard to pick up at first, but follow what he does and throw the flag. Like, no, they've never played Counter-Strike on that level. So the idea Carrigan's doing all this with Frozen and BMAS, totally inexperienced players, along with Ropses, is like star trio. The guy can fucking do whatever he wants at this point in time. He's just like cashing his own checks. Like, it is ridiculous. So I think the story of Mouse was been cool as fuck. Like, look what a little turnaround they did. You would have expected they'd be dead after Woxic left. That was supposed to be the end. Where are they going to get anyone to replace him?
Yeah, it was. And like you say, I mean, BMAS, he's got a bright career ahead of him. I mean, I think the worry for me is if Carrigan does leave, it's going to stall a little bit. Because I don't understand, like, Mouse Sports cannot replace Carrigan. Carrigan is
no one.
Yeah, there is no one, and it'll probably end up being MSL or something, right? But yeah, and that would be sad for all of those players because you're gonna get the other side, of the IGL world. But we'll wait and see. Which brings us on to, of course, the winners of the whole thing, Astralis. And they came in to this tournament. I think this was the first official one where Magisk relinquished.
I think he said that, yes.
Yeah, the in-game leadership role he's been doing. And by the way, what a fucking trooper that guy is.
Oh, the beast.
Mate. I was recording something for peep it out just this morning, and I said I don't think we're going to understand that player's true greatness until like maybe 2-3 years down the road. We're going to look back. That guy's fucking mentally good. Like,
yeah,
and,
for sure.
and taking on the in-game leadership role, you're taking over from who? Oh, Glaive, just like one of the best in-game leaders in the modern era. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll do that. And what? It's going to affect my own personal performance, is the theory. Nah, it's actually not that much, actually. Yeah, fine. So he gave it back to Glaive. And obviously they lost to Godsent on the opening day. And you're like, well, that's the sign that, you know, Astralis are done. They're washed. You know, there's lots going on behind the scenes. You can't trust them anymore to go and win these tournaments. You know, it's just the future. It's the shape of things to come. And then they went on a run that is fucking so crazy. So they beat Liquid. Now, Liquid have problems, but that's still a crazy team to have to play. To play for your tournament life. Oh. I would say I don't want to play that team for my tournament life. You know, when there's teams like North and Namiga and Godsent and, you know, whatever in the fucking tournament, Contact in the to play Liquid for your tournament life at any period of time is like gotta, you know, would give any other team a cold sweat. They beat that, of course they do. See you, Moses. You've been done again. He's got his own kryptonite already. Fury of Astralis. What a nightmare. They then have to face the new revitalized Nico G2 in the next round. 2-0 them. Right, well, what's next? Oh, don't worry about it. You've got Gambit, who are on a 19 best-of-3 streak. One of the most emergent teams at the end of 2020.
Looking sick if everyone hasn't seen it. Look really sick.
Unfucking real. That Shiro kid is mustard as fuck. Like, he's unbelievable. Don't worry, they're just going to 2-0 them. Right, well, surely the fairy tale ends now in the semis, because you're playing Furia. And Furia, look, they're up for it this tournament. Nah, don't worry about it. You're going to 2-0 them. And then they go up against Mouse Sports. Remember what Carrigan's reputation is about beating his old teams. He's done it to Astralis so many times. That's why I thought they were going to win the whole thing. And then Astralis with the map disadvantage, remember, in a best-of-5 win 3-1. It is fucking crazy. This might conceivably be the best Astralis run in, like, you know, since the start of the year, since January, February, when they'd climbed their way back to the summit and were the #1 team in the world. And, you know, I know they made a joke and they did sub Bubsky in like once or twice over this, but man alive, Glaive makes such a difference. And let's also just say, fucking Device was on some other shit this tournament.
Yeah, he was hard. He was going ham, mate.
Yeah. I mean, like, these are the tournament runs where when we look back and we have the argument about who was the best player at all time in CSGO, you know, when the next CS comes out or when esports, you know, implodes or whatever it's going to be. These are the tournament runs where you're going to look back at what Device was doing and just be like, he's just on some other shit. Like I think, you know, I'm starting to understand it because I know you always make the argument about him being the GOAT in CSGO, right? But even though he's never individually won Best Player of the Year in any year he's played, he's always been like top 4.
Yeah. Just his consistency is what kills you. Yeah, that's the point. Is the other players have time. So, I mean, to be fair, they're also amazing players. Like, some of them just have the eye test, just shows you the skills unreal in it. But, like, the thing with Device that actually might make him the GOAT is, like I say, just the number of years he's always been in that conversation, or at least knocking on the door of it. And then also, like, it's a bit, basically, the player I would compare Device to is Tim Duncan from the NBA. Because, like, realistically, you never looked at him and were like, holy shit, he's just the best player in the whole NBA. But he just every single game, he would always give you like the right numbers. He would always play efficiently. He would always play team basketball. Device is the same way. Like a Device plus 30 series is like you just won 100%. There was no way you were losing that ever. Like Simple and Nico and all the rest of them, they can just dominate individually, but you never know how much that transfers to the rest of the team. Like I'm just so impressed that like these last few tournaments, especially, he's been hard carrying, and they're doing great team Counter-Strike. So like, yeah, what do you want to? What can you complain about? And this is the online era. Everyone else, I mean, to be fair, Zemu and Simple are banging out of control, but a lot of other big names have fucking just took the year off, haven't they? They've just like removed themselves from the conversation. So Device was having his own problems earlier in the year, but the last few tournaments, he's been straight fire. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And sorry, yeah, I noticed the chat were right. Yeah, it wasn't. I was thinking of another tournament. There was no map advantage here. This was just a legit win.
Yes.
Where Astralis did take 3 maps off an informed mouse sport. So just crazy stuff. I mean, listen, I don't know what you make of the whole Bubsky situation. I think it's worth talking about now. I think there's no way he gets back in the team.
No.
I think there's no way. I think if you like, it's gonna take the players that I think might leave, Zipnix and Glaive, it's going to take one of those leaving to even open a window for a player like Bubsky to get in. And I think they simply threw him this like finals appearance almost as kind of like a token. Because what's hilarious is there are actually 6-man rosters that are out there working right now.
Yes.
Not just Vitality, Na'Vi are doing it, and that bit kid's good. So, you know, I think Astralis are like, oh, fucking hell, the ruse is coming undone a little bit here. Put Bubsky in. But Bubsky's still a straight fire player, and it's like, you know, maybe he's a guy you should be thinking about maybe going to Mouse Sports if Chris J stands down or something. But, like, ultimately, I think this core 5 of Astralis is going to ride out into 2021, and who can blame them with performances like this?
Put it this way, I don't actually believe that Bubsky is in a real 6-man rotation. I mean, if we start off, he only subs in for literally 1 map in the entire pool. And even then, I'm sorry, like he subs in for Nuke. What, you want to take Zipnix out on Nuke? Like, man, this is like you're just going out your way to do this. Like, I personally think, because I've just seen enough from Astralis, I can be this cynical now. I don't have to give them any charitable benefit of a doubt. I assume, no joke, that they're doing that to, again, reignite the notion they have a 6-man roster. Because as you say, 2 other teams, even in their peer group, are doing it right now. Too much success, especially in Vitality's case, that first of all, it makes their story look fake. And already, by the way, their stock price is tanked like a motherfucker. But then more importantly, how are you ever going to sell that player if he never gets match fitness? Like, he has to play sometime. So in my opinion, even just playing him a little bit keeps him in people's minds, where, like you say, if a Mouse Sports or someone is looking for another player, he's the most eligible player in the world right now. We all know he's good. And in theory, he's not getting a play for his main team. So as long as he can pay the buyout, I imagine they're going to sell. So that's the thing. If we basically got asked this question in my AMA, the guy just said, like, which one of these 3 is most likely? Does, like, fucking Bobsky go to another team? Does Bobsky become a real rotation player? Or does, like, Bobsky retire or something? And I said, the most obvious is he just goes to another team. Like, I don't consider this a real rotation. Like, realistically, you think he's just good on 1 map. What's the point in him having him in your team then? It doesn't even make sense. Yeah. So, yeah, I think they've pushed the ball out too far on that one. By the way, fair play. They were able to still dick around and put him in and win a tournament doing it. Yeah, respect. But I don't believe it's a real thing. No. And I think, actually, if those 5 players stay and they don't force their way out, they just play with the original 5. They always were going to, in my opinion. I don't think it was ever on the table to actually use these players. That's why more fool you if you're one of these people who believe they were going to use Yogi and Esatag as like real player. Just more fool you. You still haven't learned.
So, look, I'll tell you what we're going to do, Dunk, right? Because I forgot we had to double up on viewer questions this time, so I've been a bit lazy.
All right, let's do it then.
The pacing. So we'll segue into the questions, but let's do a complete flashpoint breakdown once we have a better idea about what we can and can't say.
Yeah,
or rather, what you can and can't.
I can say what I want, but we'll do it soon.
Yeah, I know, but rather the relevant information being known. Because I know people think we're deliberately glossing over the whole thing.
Oh, no, we're going to go into all that shit.
Yeah, but believe it, we keep it real around here, guys. That's never going to change. And now more than ever, because what you're going to do, you know, me and Duncan are we've ascended. We're all right.
Yeah.
You know, we've done everything we were put here to do, guys. So, like, you know, we'll
got
definitely
all the good stories on that. Don't worry.
Yeah. You'll get
some mad shit for you as well. Some mad shit.
I believe it. So let's do the viewer questions. For those of you who don't know, if you give $50 or more, you get to ask a question. We went so mad on the CSPPA shit, and we didn't want to dilute it because it was an important show. We didn't do questions last time, so we're doubling up this time. So, Rezchi, what was the best decision you've ever made while being drunk as fuck?
Oh, let me think. Have you ever accidentally done anything brilliant? Is there anything like you've actually done that somehow mad just worked out?
I mean, I don't know, mate. Down the years, like I learned. Right, so there's this thing, you know what they say about sharks that you know, if they stop swimming, they die. So they sleep while they swim. I'm like that, but with alcohol. So it's like I can be fucked up on the inside, but like a cordyceps fungus, I function and no one would ever know. So there's a part of me that's always, it can turn on a dime, it can always sober up, it can always do something. So I've just done some unbelievable shit, mate. I'm the type of guy who like probably couldn't even touch his toes, but if I was 10 pints deep and someone said, do a backflip and land on your fucking feet, I'd probably nail it first time. So I'm just that type of motherfucker, you know, like I couldn't even single out a moment because some of the stuff I've done while I've been shit-faced is just like God tier stuff. The Greeks used to the Greeks I used to live with always had a fucking running joke. There's this term in Greek, palakari, and it means legend, but you kind of use it derogatively, that they're a legend in their own mind. You know, oh, it's the palakari, but I was the real palakari because I'd say mad shit like, I bet I can do that. Like Sam was with Dust on the stream the other day. Sam thinks he can beat Dust Moret in a game of disc golf.
Easy.
Dust's been, easy. See?
No, it doesn't just do it all the time.
Yeah, but mate, you know he's a natural born bottler, and it's like playing fucking, Arsenal in the Champions League final, like a fucking free
premise. He would listen. Dust would definitely fucking chalk it at like the fucking pot or whatever it is, the final one. He definitely give you chances at it. Sure.
So I'm like, you have to have it's a fucked up combination of like when the Welsh are all like this. Like no Welshman has ever gone into a fucking challenge thinking they're not going to 100% win. Like fuck it. I mean, it's probably why we were like going to war with England. You know, like we'll have a go. We'll win independence. No bother. Like. You know, so yeah, I can't pinpoint a moment. Just in general, my drunken internal compass is brilliant. Like, I'm definitely a bet. I probably made better informed decisions when wasted than I do when I'm sober.
See, I haven't got anything, so I would have just reverted to some whack joke. Like, I thought, you know what? I'll finally just let those bloody polls know what I think about them before I come on. No, obviously I didn't do that, sadly. I was actually stone sober.
You were stone cold sober and just an idiot. Yeah, no
just
problem.
An asshole. Just, came in naturally.
His next question was, if you three, I will have a think about that though, Rezchi, and I'll think of my best drunk legendary night out stories.
Why did you put it like, what you should have said, is what funny thing, not what's the best decision, like what's my best decision I've done while I've been drunk? How bad could cocaine be? Pizza. How bad? What decisions does he think I'm making?
That's always a great one.
Yeah, that's the problem. At the time, it always seems like a great idea, doesn't it?
Yeah, always a great one until you're fucking 2 years down the road. I'll tell you what I've been watching lots of lately, mate, on TV, because I'm working on moving into 2021. I'm starting a documentary series. You know, we've always like jerked off about like fucking, we'll do the 30 for 30. I'm just going to fucking nut up and actually go do it myself. So I'm working on that. So I've immersed myself in a bunch of documentaries. And I think the ultimate one for esports is that Dark Side of the Ring, which I know sounds like a porn movie starring Sam, but but it's actually about wrestling, and I've been watching it all, and I think like wrestling is super analogous to what we do in esports anyway at the best of times. Sports entertainment, right? That vibe, you know, but all derelicts behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's the angle that'll be really good, because obviously it's just so fake, isn't it?
Yeah, so
and esports is the same way.
Yeah, so I'm been watching a lot of that, and so whenever you're bringing up cocaine, like how bad could cocaine be? Let me introduce you to Hawk from the Legion of Doom.
There you go.
Yeah, mate. I just watched that episode. I was like, it was like Animal fucking goes there and he goes, I'm at a party, bro, and there's a crowd of people, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here? We all doing shots? And I go over and it's Hawk, and he's on a stretcher with an oxygen mask on his head, and I'm going, he's got to wrestle in 2 hours, and the paramedic says, this motherfucker can't wrestle, he's about to stroke out. He'd been mixing coke and muscle relaxants for 2 fucking days straight. Just up and down, and just fucking blew a gasket. Dead at 46. Don't recommend it, kids. So that answers Duncan's question. Anyway, next question from Rezchi was, if you three had to play CS Manager 2021, which is obviously there is a game called CS Manager, but he means Fantasy Counter-Strike. With only NA teams, which team would you take, and what reasonable moves would be your first 3 moves within a reasonable budget?
Why do you keep putting the word reasonable there?
I think because you can get your
sign simple or something. You mean?
Well, yeah, but also I think it's because you can go get your reasonable T-shirts from the Richard Lewis store right now.
I see.
Okay. ! Merch. If you want to get a link to that in the chat, go buy a T-shirt with the word reasonable on it. That's exactly what I am. Reasonable.
I mean, in line with the earlier conversation, the obvious team. This is why Moses became the coach's team. Liquid, like the pieces there are amazing. Like Elysian Nath alone is like you can start a team with them right there. Stewie's obviously a good piece if you have him in the right role. The problem with that team is you need a fucking legit IGL, which is what NA lacks at the moment, don't they? So I think in that route you have to go European. Like maybe you have to get Carrigan of that team or something. You have to go for some big move though. I think because the problem I think with that team as well is also another issue that Moses faced is it's all well and good when they bring you in and initially they bring you in and they want to hear what you have to say. They are receptive, but it's really hard to win over like massive players, egos, big superstars. Like you have to almost just be a man's man to do that. It's really tough to do. So like fucking hell, it'd be hard to know who to put in that team. That's the problem because a lot of people will be way too intimidated to play in that squad.
Well, if you're taking Liquid, I'd take Evil Geniuses then.
What are you changing though?
Yeah, well, here we are. Like, I mean, I think, listen, I'll drop Tarek. I love you, mate. Sorry.
Listen with who?
Yeah, well, okay. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? This is where we got to start thinking. Grow up, you fucking idiot. How many edibles have you had, you mad cunt?
Just get him in the team.
Well, by the way, on your point is what I actually did say for Liquid. I think the fantasy move I would make, and you're gonna think I've fucking my boxes. I'm stroking out like fucking Hawk at a beach party. I'd bring Fallen in.
I don't hate it, believe it or not, because I actually think that's one of those moves where both parties so desperately need it to work. It might actually even have a chance, mate. They need to turn it around. Put it this way, that's one of the things I actually do think about people like Fallen. It's why when over the years there was rumours that maybe Fallen would go to fucking FaZe Clan, I always thought the worst thing is this cunt will fucking moonwalk into that at the end of his career. And it'll probably work out because look at all the sick players in the team. Like, if anything, he might be the one player who could do it.
But they need an AWPer and they need someone to take over IGL for Stewie. It's not been good for him.
It's got to be one of the few players they do respect.
He does both. You just sell twists. You sell him for big money, probably to a Valorant org, and you put Fallen in. Stewie's played with Fallen before. I think all of those players, like even Elige, must look up to Fallen on some level. And yeah, I think that works. But anyway, on my move, replace Tarek, but who with? Yeah, you are right. You are right. Who do I replace him with? It's mental, isn't it? Because I want to give props to the fucking Chaos guys. I want to give one of those guys an opportunity. Like, I think Xeppaa is so fucking underrated. It's mental. Yeah, like you could put him in there, but it's not going to be big enough. Fur's gone to boom. Why is he doing that? Surely there's got to be more options for him, And then again, I never thought we saw the best of Phelps. You can bring Brazilian players in. That
I
counts.
agree. You should.
I think. I tell you what, actually. Drop Tarek. Here you go. Mad Fantasy CS now. Drop Tarek. FNX. Back from the dead. On EG. He wins majors, mate. He gets on base. I'm playing Moneyball up in this motherfucker. He gets on base, and you can't deny it. FNX gets on base. So there you go. But yeah, we should do that. We should try and come up with some insane fucking fantasy league, I think. And yeah, make it work. Firsoch. With Furia reportedly eyeing up Triumphs Jr. and Gaming having added 2 North American players, what are your thoughts on South American teams adding NA talent, and is it a trend you think will continue? I think right now we're in a weird spot in the sense that there's not enough truly great talent in Brazil to go around and make, let's say, 4 great Brazilian teams. I don't think we're there yet. But maybe 2 or 3. And there's also a lot of good opportunities to pick up prospects in NA and maybe blood them and develop them, which would have been outside of the wheelhouse for these Brazilian orgs in the past. They're not going to... Some of these NA buyouts, by the way, for ordinary players are disgusting. They are so high. and they couldn't afford them before. Now, when you see teams like the New England Whalers going under, Chaos going under, you go get yourself a prospect for good fucking money. And these are young lads as well, by the way. Triumph as well being an example. Now, I don't know. I had this conversation with Davey the other day. I think it was Davey. Oh, it might have been Dust. Sorry for getting you mixed up. Davey will be outraged. But no, I think it was Davey.
Davey, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, y'all be giving me the D. You're all cunts. But anyway, one of the lads was saying they really, really like this junior guy, and I went and watched some clips, and I'm just like, okay. I don't know, yeah, he don't impress me much, but whatever. But I think it's a trend that can continue, and actually, it's a trend these NA players should be welcome for, because if you're not willing to sell your soul and go to Valorant, now Brazilian orgs are going to be your fucking salvation, so welcome that.
Yeah. By the way, just in case you're confused, like if you ever run into that trouble, you can't tell if it's Davey or Dust. Just remember, is it a guy who has a bright future in broadcasting? If so, it's not Dust.
You know what's mad as well?
Dust is in the chat 100% as well. Let's try it.
No. But you know what's mad? I was talking with him like just the other night. And I'm like, yeah, you know, he's just been fucked over so many times. Like, even this new tournament he did, he's like, right, fresh start in Valorant. And he got like, I know you won't know this. So he went and did this event in Valorant, right? And he was so like thought it was going to work out. He works with another guy we know, LaFortune, aka Seaside. I'm sure you've heard of him, caster. And so he paid Seaside in advance out of his own money. And now he
just is bad luck Brian.
Yeah,
it's just that fucking meme just into esports. It's mad.
And now obviously the tournament organizer's like, yep, sorry, we can't pay you. And so Dust's in that position. You can't go and ask for your money back. You know, from the guy you did a solid to.
That's brutal.
He's been double fucked, mate. So he's not feeling that he's.
Realize Dust's whole career in esports is just that scene from Requiem for a Dream. Ass to ass.
nah. Yeah, mate, it's too
exactly. Much. He's like that old woman as well.
Just wait. Like, I had COVID as well just recently. Like, just waiting for the video of him having his arm sawn off or something.
Mate, someone just make the esports version of that movie, Requiem for a Dream. So you can have all like fucking Shazam at the major kind of eats on Admiral, like that old woman. Like, am I here? Am I right now? Is it kind of
be excited? Be excited. Be excited. Yeah, Requiem for a Dust. Please make that movie, guys. Please do. Right. Anyway, ButtPounder420 says, in light of his Gollum, speaking of Dust, in light of his Gollum cosplay during the bot major, when will we get a best of shitting on Dust as a video? I mean, you have to understand, like, this is how much I do legitimately care about him, right? Like, when he had the COVID, obviously, I knew he was going to knock it out the park. He's a young, healthy lad. But I still waited because we've got that. We didn't put the Gollum cosplay video out on YouTube. Right. Because if he did die...
It would be tragic.
might
look uncaring.
Yeah. I know. We put it out, and then it's like, oh, Rich Dust has died. And we've got him dressed up as Gollum, biting the head off a fish. Like, it's his last thing he ever did.
It's just like in love in tribute to.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, who can say? You know, it would have just been too much, right? But we probably should do that. I'm sure Dust will love it. He does enjoy it. You know, we would never take it too far with Dust. Like, he's in.
Also, let's be real.
He is in on the bit.
Yeah, that video would also be a banger. First of all, two things. One, there's so much material that would make that straight fire. And two, he'd just like to mention, you know, he obviously enjoys some of it, you know.
No, I mean, like, Dust is like, you know, we talk about it when we're not on air, and it's like, you know, he's always laughing about what I guess it's my role to be the punching bag.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
he's one of those characters in Cheers in the background, not the really famous ones, but the ones you sort of remember from the show Cheers.
Yeah.
Troy McClurley.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Hi, you may remember me from Cheers.
Hi, I'm Dust Moretz. You may remember me from such events as the Bot Major. and me biting a fish's head.
And anachronistically being remembered for saying "You're less noobs," even though that wasn't even my line. I will again reiterate for the 100th time.
What I love about that, by the way, though, is how Van Silly, right, not only got away with it in CS, he's now dizzled his fucking way into Valorant. Top tier caster in Valorant, right? Killing it in Valorant right now, like one of the big names. Everyone loves him as well, and it's like he's taking Dust's jobs.
It's so mental, isn't it?
It's like, yeah, bad luck Brian don't even do it justice, mate. It's mental. Anyway, ButtPounder asks his second question. What's the current situation with Red Eye? Gets somber and serious from nowhere. Okay. Have you spoken to him? Now, I'll just be upfront here. Outside of checking in on him when all that shit went down, I know Red Eye is not the kind of guy that wants you to be fucking poking and prodding him while he's going through his shit. And it's not going to help. So I've known him a long time. And we all reached out initially when it went down. And I know he's going to be all right. And I still think he'll come back to esports. And I'll be here waiting to welcome him when he does. Because I'm not about that, humans are complicated. Obviously, there are some things that are irredeemable. I don't think Red Eye falls on that side of it at all. I think, his desire to be the best and his desire primarily for the shows to be the best for you guys at home has led him into some dark places. I think you throw in a mix of, familial issues and, marital issues. You throw all that in. And it's a fucking powder keg. Like, we're all, I know people don't realize this, right? While you're poking and prodding us and fucking with us and deriving your own sick. Press the red button now to interact and amusement with it all. But we're all people too. We're all going through our own fucking mad shit in our private lives. We have relationships that break down. We have people who we love that die. We fucking turn up and we still do all this and put on the brave face. And you guys, not all of you, but some of you, what you do is for whatever fucked up thing you got going on, you think like it's okay to fucking poke and prod us while we're going through that shit. In fact, I read some vile stuff every day about things I've gone through personally because people just think it's funny. So, I can totally empathize with what Paul went through in the public eye. And the demonization he got doesn't really, it's not justified in light of the transgressions he actually committed. So he knows I feel that way. I've communicated that to him. And outside of that, Paul's the type of dude I'll leave alone. Not because I don't care about him, but because I think he's better off working through it by himself without some fucking arsehole clucking like a mother hen. He's from the same world me and Duncan are. We don't want the hover, the hover friend. We don't want the helicopter parent. If we tell you we got some shit to work through, we want to go out into the fucking desert and have the fucking trip by ourselves,
No, I have the same thing, mate. Because I sometimes get people who just trying to be, especially Americans, because they don't get it culturally. They're trying to be well-meaning, where they just message you like, "You want to talk about what's going on?" It's like, definitely not. That's literally the last thing on my mind right now, mate. Listen, there's nothing wrong. Everything's cool. I'll figure it out. But definitely don't want to talk about it while I'm doing that. Thanks, peace. Yeah, same. I agree with the same thing. Listen, Red Eye has his own sins to bear, but also those aren't some of the ones that were necessarily highlighted recently. Some of that was totally inappropriate, in my opinion. So I still think the space for him in the industry could still be a force for good. I'm sure at some point in time there'll be the right project, the right thing, maybe behind the scenes where he can come back and have some impact. And I'm sure when he gets his shit together, he'll do it.
Well, eventually. I mean, maybe next year's esports. I mean, he should be in the Hall of Fame, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Maybe that's. I mean, I hope it doesn't take another year before he's back. But if that's not an invitation and a validation of who he is, and there's absolutely nothing he's ever done in his life that should deny him entry into that. He should have been in there before me. He should have been in there before a bunch of people, in my opinion. So, maybe that's how we bring Paul back and show him that he's not only welcome, but loved and revered for all the great work he did. So, good question. But yeah, I'm sure we'll see Paul again. It's not over for him, despite everything. Lonny asks, will you tip off Nikolaj Nyholm to invest in disc golf because the scene seems small enough for him to take full control. It'd be a great scene to take over. Been getting into it, Duncan. You ever watch disc golf?
I've never seen it before. I watched like one time when Dust was doing it. And it's like, it looks all right. Like I can get the premise of it. So it's like throwing a frisbee basically, right? But I don't really know. The problem with that is I'm just too ignorant to know whether like it's like the best people are super duper skilled. Like, can you actually be as skilled with that as you can with like golf, etc.?
I don't think it's with golf, definitely not. But because we were watching the best in the world and they underperformed, we thought they could do
it.
Paul Macbeth.
Paul Macbeth is the best in the world, and he's a cunt. He's a cunt. I hate him already, but you can just tell he's got that face, you know. But he's mental how consistent he is, man.
Oh, fair enough.
So yeah, I think you can actually be legitimately good at it. You're not as good as Sam.
Never thrown it, but I would be like,
yeah. ReykjavikOnSteam. Now that it seems NACS is on its deathbed again, could this serve as a new rebirth akin to what happened in the NA scene after the iPad power bans, or is this likely to be the final nail in the coffin? P.S. Moses is a bald fraud. So I think 2021 we can't salvage anything. I don't know what happens in 2022. I'm not a fucking, despite being right all the time, I'm not like a seer or a prophet, although I am going to start declaring myself one. I'm comfortable with the role of esports. Jesus, I'll lean into it. It's fine. But I think, unfortunately, these wounds are too deep to heal. I think you have every major organization in NA, not just actually leaving, but even the ones who are staying are acknowledging it's a discussion. That was the other part that we left out earlier. Evil Geniuses came out after our podcast and clarified, we're not leaving in 2021, but it wasn't that bold a statement. They said, we're looking forward to competing in 2021, which isn't the same fucking thing at all. And I think every big NA org has had the conversation. That's not a good sign, because that was unthinkable in 2019. That we were going to have that conversation. So I think it's done in NA until Valve or ESL or some other leagues or somebody can offer some incentive, or maybe Valorant flops. But Valorant's poised to succeed because not only is it going to get all the disgruntled NACS players, Overwatch League's probably going to tank at the same time they're announcing their franchise league. And if it isn't already tanking, that's going to be a huge factor in tanking it. And then they're going to get all the Overwatch players and all of that as well. You're going to essentially have all the nomads from two scenes in NA coming into this new game. And just by virtue of that alone, it's got a massive head start on where Overwatch was starting from, and to a certain degree where NACS was rebuilding from these last few years. So I think it's too late. I think everyone took their eye off the ball. People didn't pay proper attention during the pandemic. Valve clearly doesn't give a fuck. ESL didn't give a fuck when they robbed all the NA teams blind of their slots. They didn't understand the cascading domino effect that would happen. And here we are. These owners have never wanted a challenge in NA. There's like 2 or 3 owners, I think, that are up for actually running an esports org. What they all really want to do is run fucking clothing lines and influencer organizations, maybe talent agencies. They don't want to run teams. They're not interested in excellence. They're not interested in it being hard. They're interested in profit. And we've seen their weak, spineless nature come to the forefront because they've abandoned CS when we need them more than ever. You can hide behind the fact that it's not profitable, but facts are facts. You're pussied out.
I also think I'll put a little bit of it on TOs as well. What were you thinking, just running the same cookie cutter tournaments over and over and over and over and over again, but with only NA teams? You killed the product, you dumb fox. Like, you actually managed to take online Counter-Strike. By the way, it was always watched. Even when back in the day when I used to say I don't care about online CS, everyone else still watched ECS and EPL and all the rest of that crap, even when it was NA. So, like, to me, what you should have done in this year, particularly, once you knew you were stuck online, is you take all your creatives and you say, right, you have to fix this product for me. So do something different with it. Put in loads of shoulder content or run a different tournament format. Don't just do the same formats like 15 times in a row and then wonder why people got bored of watching Furia versus EG in every semi-final for an entire year. Like, that's like everything you said about oversaturation times a million. So I think they could have done so much more with the talent they had a few months ago. As you say, now they're in deep shit. Like, now all the good teams are in Europe and no one knows even Like, who the fuck's going to watch half these NA tournaments if it's not a Brazilian team playing?
Yeah. The other question Reykjavik asks, it says, if CS did have a die, would there be, would By the Numbers continue covering a new sport, perhaps disc golf?
Put it this way, if we ever actually, both of us, did properly get into Valorant, I'm sure we'd consider doing the show in that game. But the point is, at the moment, what's the point? It's just a Counter-Strike show, isn't it? So I'm not against the premise. It's just right now, like, that's the thing people don't get. Even if CS was dying, that alone isn't enough to make me want to get into Valorant. I have to like Valorant, don't I? Like, It can't just be, I can't be just compelled towards something. I have to be drawn into it as well. So that's the part where I don't get the other angle that some players do. I get it if they say, listen, I was already playing Valorant on the side. I'm pretty good at it, and I've got a good offer there. That's fine. Go ahead. The ones who are like, shit in CS, isn't it? I'm going to Valorant. It's like, what does that even mean? Like, you're just going from the frying pan to the fire there, mate. What are you talking about? Like, that's far from secure.
I think what would probably happen if, let's say, all of CS died, right? Like, I mean, I like working with Duncan. He likes working with me. I like the community we've built up around this podcast. I think as evidenced by the questions we get from our top tier patrons, which, by the way, you know, like, love all of y'all, all 3,000 of you watching right now. But the reality is, like, patrons are a priority because they've resurrected the show. The reason it
By
came
the way,
back.
mad respect. I don't know about your Patreon, but mine's barely even gone down during the pandemic.
No,
I literally, no joke, I wouldn't have blamed people if they'd taken half the money out. If they were like, listen, I have to downgrade, I haven't got the money. There's barely any did that. And by the way, the amount of them that actually, if they did actually have to do that, sent me like a private message, like, listen, I have to go down.
There we go.
Like, I'm actually amazed. You don't feel any obligation to say to me, guys, if you need the money, just take it out. I'm not joking. So respect for those that stayed in there. No, we need it.
But I was just going to say the same thing, you know. Yeah. But this is the importance of vetting your community and making sure you have people who do give a fuck about what you're doing in your community. There's so many streamers, by the way, that don't care, and their communities turn into like monsters and aberrations, and then they go, "Oh God, but I just didn't know, I couldn't see it coming." I'm on top of that shit every day. Like I make a point of saying, if you're not fit to be here, you know, if you don't believe in the things that we believe or hold the values that we hold, like, don't come around, you know? So, yeah, same goes. Like, if you need to pull out money, like, don't feel obliged to leave it in. The mad thing is the BTN patron actually went up during the pandemic. That's how fucking good support we got. So the reality is, like, we wouldn't go anywhere. You know, we would repurpose the show. We would take suggestions from you all. We'd hit you up with an email. And we'd say, what do you want us to talk about? I think it could be a very good general esports show. I think it could be a good specific Valorant show. Fuck it. We'll do a fucking Super Bowl special, you know, whatever. Whatever you guys want, you'll get it. Watch Doge. What are the most drastic instances you can think of where a player or their play style was nerfed due to an update? Examples such as Scream becoming less valuable after the movement patch in 2013, or Kenny S being nerfed by the AWP update, or Kiyashima after CSGO Lounge shut down.
All right, well played. Well played. Yeah, we like that one. Good one.
Serious. That's pretty good, right?
Because the problem with that one is somehow he always low-key gets away with that, doesn't he? He's just the only one that everyone forgets because he's at the third order effect of the cheating. It's like, listen, Kyo, why are you just moving the whole Steam inventories around, you dirty little cunt? Like, come on.
I know, it was wild. But like, straight...
And just being like, what do you mean? I was just moving it. Like, whatever. Listen, mate, you got away with it somehow. I don't know how you got away with it, so just be grateful for that.
Yeah. So for me, it's JW. I mean, you know, with a CZ nerf. That was... What you have to remember is it's not that JW suddenly became like a worse AWP or anything like that. It was that right. You play, if you are wicked with a type of pistol that has a super high rate of fire that you can just pull out your fucking pocket, and you're also a good AWPer as well, you can afford to play insanely aggressive. It wasn't just the AWP and how the AWP was balanced, or JW and how JW played. It was that at the same time, he was sick, the AWP was sick, the CZ was also sick, and he understood all of those three things and knew how to leverage it to his advantage. So he was a type of dude who would run up fucking mid as the CT with an AWP, and you're like, what you doing there? You put yourself at a disadvantage. He'd bang someone's head off, or if he missed it and didn't, he'd pull a CZ out and bang someone's head off. When that pistol was nerfed, it like shook his whole world to the core. I don't think I've seen a drop-off quite as significant as that. And while I think in recent events he's been good, he's never been the terror he was when the AWP and CZ were balanced the way they were. And It's not to be disparaging, but like JW was like top player in the world back then, and now he's just a good squad player, let's say. So that would be my pick, I think. What about you?
I mean, that's a pretty good one. That was one that, like, because as you said, essentially what it did, unfortunately, that weapon was it just like made him have no weakness. Like normally a player like that, you just get in their face, don't you? Like they're not going to, I mean, back then especially, nobody hit like simple type no scopes all the time. So if you just bomb rush the AWPer, you probably hunt him down. But the problem was with that weapon, that was effectively where that weapon became OP as fuck, is when someone's just running down the barrel of it. So it was way too powerful. I famously said back then, JW was like the most extreme version of it, like the disease, the symptom. But the fact that like Smiths also just became twice as good as a player at the same time, it's like, because they were both doing the same thing, guys. Think about them. They both shoot really fast from the AWP, and they were just playing aggressively around corners with that weapon if you try to rush them. So yeah, I think that's a pretty big one. The screen one's not to be underestimated though. If people don't know how like the spray used to work back then, it basically almost nerfed his whole fucking style. Like, he used to be really good before. Because the point is, yeah, he shot in that really limited style, but he used to hit everyone in the head, so he just used to get the kills.
Yeah. So I think both good shouts. JerckysMinion, long-standing support. Good to see you, brother. What's your favorite race in Warhammer 40k? I don't know if you must have dabbled in 40k.
Yeah, back in the day, I used to love Warhammer. I used to love all like the chaos angle, that whole lore. So I thought,
what was your favorite chaos god?
How do you even say it? The one
was
that's
it
like
Slanesh?
No, it was like Zenich or whatever the fuck. That one that like has all the shapeshifters and stuff. I like those ones. It's just the aesthetics. Like the chaos god angle was cool as fuck. Look how amazing some of the models were. It was fucking sick.
Yeah, it really tough for me because it's like, I was more just Warhammer standard. I didn't really like 40k all that much. I like the idea of moving big blocks of fucking, dudes with spears and stuff like that around the table. But I did play some 40k because I had some boys that were into that stuff. I preferred Necromunda. I thought it was a much better game. I like the idea of small squads and gangs and whatever. But so if I was a race, very, very hard to say. I mean, I like the vibe of the Eldar, right? Because obviously they're like the elves, and they've got a lot going on right there, haven't they? Because first of all, they're a dying race, and they know they're dying, and they're also so prescient. They've seen into the future, know the future's horrible, know that all humanity and they themselves are doomed. Whichever road they go down, it's like, well, the Tyranids have won. Well, chaos is what. It's always bad. Like, so they know it's already over, yet they still go out and fight. That's like pretty much analogous to what it's like being a fucking investigative journalist in esports. But also as well, they have that constant element where the Dark Eldar, Slanesh, is sort of got in their heads. That's how they do Dark Elves in 40k. And Slanesh is always trying to seduce them. So they actually have a sort of faction within themselves that's always kind of actively tearing them down, saying...
Just like journalists as well.
Exactly. Yeah, you're polishing brass on a Titanic. Why not get a bit on the side? Why not have debauched sex? You're better than all the humans, So yeah, probably the Eldar. Even though I used to fucking hate them. There was a patch, if you want to call it that. There was a period in Warhammer 40k where they were broken as fuck way back when. They released a bunch of sexy models and they had to sell them, so they just put out a fucking army book where they were just so unbelievably super powered compared to everyone else. Now it's the Space Marines, because that's what you get in the base set. Space Marines and Necrons are broken as fuck. But yeah, so I'd probably be an Eldar, which makes me very arrogant. Hope that answers your question. Benikage, is it possible for one to get the fuck out of one's own industry? Now, I know what that's a reference to.
Pretty good. That's a pretty good joke.
Yeah. And listen, I don't want to get into it. I'll say this, and Duncan clarified it on the podcast, and I'll repeat it again. Like, when you use the word evil, it's obviously hyperbolic, and you did clarify on the show. And like, listen, me and Scott and Duncan and Scott and the three of us have all been through some shit together. We find ourselves at odds on this issue, and I can't speak for Duncan because I think some of the stuff Scott said specifically about Duncan was outrageous. But I'm also getting old and a little bit soft and a little bit doughy, in case you hadn't noticed. And while Duncan's built for war, I don't welcome war every day. I like to pick one enemy, try and defeat them, but where possible, maybe even have a compromise and a peace talk. It doesn't have to all be mass slaughter of all our troops. It doesn't have to be a game of Risk where two massive armies all go in.
If I ever have one of those days where I wake up, what's that? TSM's declared surrender, right? What the fuck's that Nyholm all fucking up to? What are you about? What's going on over here? I have to just keep seeing who's going to join the roster.
Mate. And that's the thing, you are a little bit, you are a few years younger than me. I think it's gonna, like I'll say this to you now.
It's the Phil eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, constant war can't. It's not the way. It's like, mate, it's no way to live. Now, some people are worthy of taking up arms, and again, these are all metaphors, guys. Before Twitch gets afraid, but there are some people that it's worthy to kind of go to battle with on a daily basis. There are genuine people that want to do esports harm.
Yeah, of course.
Scott's not one of them. I think Scott's in a spot where he wants a player union. This is the player union. It's historic. It should have been something great. It isn't. But now we're in that weird spot where it's like, I've said this, and I know he knows I feel this way. He can talk to me anytime. I'm not going to go, like, if we're meant to be friends, you come to me if you got someone to tell me. I'm not coming to kiss the ring and apologize for my opinions based on evidence I know to be true. And I think, unfortunately, with the pandemic, there's a lot of people with a lot of free time on their hands. We've embroiled ourselves in grievances and arguments, and it hasn't been good for us psychologically. So I don't want Scoot out the industry as much as I know you're just making a joke, Benikage. I believe Scott is a guy that he's been on the right side 99 times out of 100. If he's on the wrong side this time, I hope everyone forgives him for that, and realizes he's still a great man and a man that did so much to push our industry forward. I'll never renounce Scott. I know it's different for you because he said some wild shit, but that's how I feel.
I mean, in theory, everyone can be rehabilitated. It just depends what their mentality is, doesn't it?
Yeah. Alice the Alchemist for Thorin. Alice fucking loves you, by the way. Never asks me
fair
questions.
Enough.
Does all the timestamps for by the numbers, but it's only to get to you.
Okay.
For Thorin, as you mentioned before, that you watch Dota for pleasure outside of working in esports. What are your favorite teams you've watched through the years? And then it goes, same question for Richard, maybe. No. It's all right, Alice. We'll keep it, Duncan. Who are your favorite Dota team?
The thing is, I never really was that big a fan of a lot of the Western teams. Like, I liked that EG team that had PPD in it because I thought they had like a pretty cool setup of players. They were really skilled. Andy's just a fucking baller personality to follow. He's got one of the best storylines for sure. Most of the Poppy teams were always pretty good, even though he was like a mild dickhead as a person, but whatever. I don't get too caught up, like, bent out of shit with people being bad humans and then just being wicked at games. Like, there's not really a problem for me. I've been behind the industry enough. And then I was like, basically, just like in League of Legends, you have to like Koreans to like the game, basically. I just loved all the really good Chinese teams. I thought those were all fucking banging over back in the day. All the ones with Zhao 8 and stuff in all. I've loved all that shit. Yeah, Burning, all those players.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've got like recency bias on this because I used to watch it, but I wasn't super into it. But I've got super into it now, and obviously I can go back and watch those games and recognize the brilliance and everything. But I am devastated for this Team Secret that's active right now.
Oh, it's so sad they never got a chance to play all these lands, isn't it? Yeah, they would have been amazing shit. They could have won TI for sure.
No, that's what I mean. If TI happens when it's meant to happen, I think that Team Secret team goes to TI and wins.
Yes. What a sick storyline that would be as well for Poppy's
exactly.
player, mate.
Oh, mate, I know. And because of this stupid fucking pandemic, they've been denied that. So it's like a little bit of heartbreak, a little bit of what if. But for those who don't know what I'm talking about, go look at the run they've had and the way they've done it. And it's like, listen, I know we all fucking love OG and their unorthodox play styles and everything they've done with the back-to-back TIs, but what Team Secret were doing with these recent patches was fantastic. Alice then goes for Thorin and Richard. Well, thank you. By the way, show some love to Alice, the Alchemist. He does do all the timestamps that you all cry about. So if you see them in chat, show them some love. Since you've been to your fair share of places, what is one cuisine from any region that no matter the amount you're offered as a dare, you would never touch?
Oh, the problem with that is I'm mad picky for food. So there's so
much. I'm going to say, I mean,
the answer's obvious for me. It'd be something from the sea. Like, put it this way.
Yeah, you hate seafood.
I don't even like the smell of like seaweed and stuff. Like, even that smell sort of turns on something like, the fuck is that? Yeah. So anything to do with fish, like anything octopus, fucking anything that looks gross, that looks like an alien, not eating any of that shit. Not eating any of it. Anything that looks like it could be coming out, like Ripley could be like, "Get back, bitch!" Like I'm not eating it. I'm eating it, mate. Not put it on my plate.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. That's a fucking hard one. Because I like to say I've been all over the world.
What about that balut, mate, in the Philippines where they eat like the chicken embryo? Is it a chicken egg where they eat the half? Yeah. For like, is it balut?
Yeah, what they do is what you're talking about there is they take an egg that's like they deliberately shut off its development so you get the full like semi-embryonic chick.
Yeah, but it's like it looks like a chick, like it does.
Yeah, it's a full chick, but with translucent skin. Yeah, it's fucked up. I mean,
fertilized duck egg. People are saying. Okay,
yeah, I could probably neck one of them for banter.
Oh, mate, I could never
Mate, when I was out in fucking Southeast Asia, I used to eat. Mate, people used to come up. Hey, will you? Oh, Rich, bet you want to eat one of these. Hey, look, it's a scorpion lollipop. I bet you. Straight down, like shut the fuck up. That's an out. Like, what are you talking about? Like drinking the fucking snake blood. Yep. Can you? Is there a way I can actually see the snake being? Like used to. None of that's ever fazed me. So I'm trying to think of like what's a really grotesque.
What about tarantula? Would you eat one of them?
Well, I mean, I think once you're in, because like no joke now, there are some parts of the world as well where you get like candied fucking cockroaches, and cockroaches are gross. They stink. If you ever had if you've ever seen a cockroach infestation in a garage or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But again, like I can eat bugs and them giant fucking stag beetles like Temple of Doom. Nom nom nom, get them down me. So I don't know, mate. I'm pretty impervious to that. I'll sit there and it'll be ticking over in my mind. Did I just poison myself? Am I just going to be shitting through the eye of a needle for fucking 2? But I'll get it down me in the first instance, especially if there's like a dare component to it. So I'm really trying to think. Oh, there you go. I'll tell you the one thing I did bulk at. Estonia.
Holy Communion?
No. Estonia have this blood soup. It is literally... Right, so how black pudding's just a scab. It's just blood with bits of sausage meat in. What they do out there is they just have it as a soup, and you just serve up. It's just this black. It's just this black heated blood soup.
It's just will you guys just grow the fuck up with the whole action role playing garbage? Like, you're not Gangrel or Edge from fucking WWE. This isn't like fucking I'm Dracula from Reminisce. You're just a wanker eating blood. Stop eating blood. Just stop. It's time to stop eating blood.
I'll say this, mate. Right, I remember talking to some cunt about this. I think it was in Finland, and they were like going, "Oh, it's good. It tastes like iron." Like I'm out. Yeah.
My favorite food.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where I draw the line. Blood soup.
Who's never even said that line out loud? This tastes good. Tastes like iron.
Yeah. Nah,
I love the taste of iron, me.
Yeah. No, not for me.
Were you Wolverine or something?
Yeah. Elon asks if you could be someone from the CS community. I mean, I am in the CS community. I don't understand. If you could be someone from the CS community for one day, someone else. Yeah. If you could be someone relevant, you bald fraud, who would it be? So who else would you be in the CS community if not you, Duncan?
Who else would I be? Who would be cool to be? I can't lie.
I'll be D-Man for a day. I'll be D-Man.
All right. Why? Is there a reason why for this?
I want to... all right. So assuming it's not just like I take over their body and I'm like, moving them around. I want it to be like fucking being John Malkovich where I'm in...
You can just know their thoughts.
Yeah. I want to know what the fuck is going on in his brain. Once and for all. So yeah, I want to be... I'll definitely pick D-Man. I want to know why he inserted himself in those finals. I want to know if he thinks streaming Bury versus fucking Chestershire or whatever the fuck he's doing on Football Manager to 20 people.
If he actually thinks it's like the way back. Like, I'm grafting, putting in a day's graft, lads.
Mate, I saw him do a tweet the other day, and it's like, listen, you should laugh about this shit because we all end up irrelevant. I mean, like, one day, mate, I'm going to be... Yeah, one day I'm going to be in a fucking hospital holding some stranger's nurse's hands. I'll fucking die. I mean, that's how my story ends. Fine, whatever. But I won't be going. I hosted the Boston. It's not going to happen, is it? But like, I saw him do a tweet, and it was like, "Let's go get this," and it was like he did a selfie from like a top angle, and it was like some fucking weren't even a top tier PUBG event, and you're like. Fucking hell.
Let's get this bread, lads.
Yeah. You were the fucking biggest. So
and then the next tweet's just a retweet of a Mr. Beast, like, retweet for $10,000.
Yeah. So it's like, I want to get in his brain and know if, like, there's some part of him, because he's a massive egotistical cunt. So I want to know if there's some...
In case you're watching, DreamHack.
Just being real about it.
So unreasonable.
But it's so true.
So
true. You know, so I want to get in his brain and fucking know if it's still like that, or if, like, you know, he's crying on the inside.
All right, then. Well, the obvious answer then is the same thing. For the same reason, I just want to be inside Flush's mind for 1 minute and go, I fucking knew it. I knew it. And start running through all his brain. All I do is start trying to remember, what's it like that time when I go up to the stage? How do I set my peripherals up? And what do I install on the PC? That's all I want to know, Flusher. That's all I want to know, baby. I might not even do it anymore, but just to know for myself that it definitely happened.
Mate, when you did that bit on Flashpoint.
Oh, it was hilarious.
Right, I'm not going to... By the way, I haven't even talked to you about this. The acting you're doing in those bits, like, fair... no.
Straight fire, wasn't it?
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play.
It.
I couldn't do that. I'm game for a bit, you know. But, like, that whole fucking... The way your delivery and everything, mate. That thing about finding Flush's mouse. And then saying, who wrote that? Was that you?
I wrote some of it. What happened was that one Tom Newman wrote, and some of them I think Monty also wrote a bit of. Because we're working
Diablo.
that guy. Yeah, he's one of the like producer people we're working with, so he helped with some of that. It depends who normally came up with the premise. Like, for example, like that Doctor one, I wrote most of that. Like, so there's a whole bunch of them we sort of collabed on. It was pretty good actually. We had a good group of people.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Those were incredible. And when I saw you as the fucking archaeologist, by the way, I had a message as well going, "Wow, Duncan's looking really thin." In the this was a real DM I got. All Duncan's looking really thin. I'm wondering if he is sick or maybe on some drug. And is he okay? Can you ask? And I was like, I think he's just lost weight, mate, because he's doing keto. Like,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so
no, that's one of the things. Because there was other things in that event going to shit. I was like, I might as well just fucking keep this diet going. Fuck it. Why not just take one W with all the else being planted on my face, like some sort of mid-2000s American comedy where everyone's doing all that like thing all the time. Is that even a thing anymore? Or is that just Fortnite now? Is that just a fucking dance? Is that it? And then Jim Brown goes, "Who is that ninja over there? Just get me out. Beat me up, Scotty. Get me out of this fucking reality already."
Right. Here's question 2 from Elon. There's like 5 more questions and then we're out.
Okay.
Sorry, I know I can see you looking over at the exit. Sorry, mate. We have to do them. We promise.
That's all right.
If I am not mistaken, Duncan pointing out in the past that it's a skill he worked out a lot. Wait, what skill?
Is there a part of the question missing?
No, it just says, if I'm not mistaken, Duncan.
Oh, yeah, there is a part. So the question is, you said that you were good at telling stories. And is it something you worked on to develop, and how could you develop it further?
There you go.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something. Put it this way, that's one of those things in life where I have a problem. I'm torn between 2 positions. The one position goes like this. I actually do think I learned almost everything I'm good at. Like most of them, I wasn't even that good at to begin with. I think the only thing maybe I have is I do seem on some level, it's a loaded term, whatever natural is, but I do seem to naturally have quite a good memory. But it's not like that one skill alone which made all the rest of my talents like emerge. I had to work on a lot of them. So on the one hand, I do think you can work at most things and become good. It's just the problem is, like, you still have to do it. So the problem is, like, people in theory could all do it. It's just that most people, 99.999% recurring, aren't going to fucking waste any attempt trying to get better. So I think for sure you can learn, like, how to tell stories. You figure out the formulas. You start to learn where, like for me, the interesting angle is a really good story is one that, like, almost suggests itself because of how satisfying it would be if, like, the story continued that way. So you have to sort of get into that frame of mind, I think, if you want to do a good job with it. Like, you start out, you got to get your skills up on the basics, and then once you start going, the story will almost write itself if you're doing it right.
Storytelling mercifully came. I know you didn't ask me the question, but you're getting this anyway, Elon. Storytelling mercifully came easy to me because, like, when I was a kid, my uncles and unofficial uncles, that when you're in a working class family, you have, you know, men who just rock up to your house and you call them uncle. No relation.
Mates or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. No relation. They used to take me down to work in men's club, the Comrades Arms, it used to be called, and they used to take me in there, and this must have been from like age 8, and they would sit me on the bar while they were doing their thing. and you know, they would be telling these outrageous stories, and you pick up on that vibe, you know. Like, I mean, it's why I like Dave Allen as a stand-up comic, you know, a guy who could literally sit down with a glass of whiskey and a cigarette and suck you into his world and tell you a story. What I realized very early on, the way to tell a story and make it good, it isn't even the content, because you can have a brilliant setup and a brilliant punchline. It's the syncopation of speech. It's like music. You have to build to the crescendo. It's the way you talk. And I realized that from watching all these drunks in bars down the years, that no matter what was wrong with them fundamentally on like a psychological level, they all could tell a story. They all knew. And so I said, and then I broke his fucking jaw. And it would be there, you know, and it's in that moment, it's the delivery. It can be something mundane. You can see the punchline coming off a mile away, but it's the way they see it. So, you know, I had a very good awareness of like how to tell a story super early on. And I'm super grateful, because while I'm sure many people would consider it almost like an act of abuse, and at age 8, I was taken to a bar, put in a bar, sat on the end of the bar and fed the fucking drip trays for fucking comedic effect. It's probably a
Didn't
crime.
even give you a full pint, like, how rude.
I mean, they used to do what were they used to do in the working men's club?
Shandy.
Was, yeah, pub shandy, they used to call it, which is where you take the drip trays and they top them up with lemonade. So it was like, it was stuff they were going to throw away anyway, but you could give a kid a little sup of beer, you know. But I was so grateful, because by the time I got to school, the only thing that stopped me getting a hammer in a lot of the time was being able to make the bullies sort of laugh and leave me alone. You know, being able to tell them a story, or sometimes being able to come up with a believable excuse to a teacher why I couldn't go out into the, you know, for break or whatever. So I think listen to the way people tell stories. Find great storytellers, listen to the syncopation and the tone and all of that stuff rather than the words. Gaming poll: what is the most refreshing beverage? What is the most refreshing a refreshing beverage has ever been for you?
I mean, the obvious one's just water, isn't it? Like, nothing really does beat water to actually be refreshing. So, got to be water's high on the list. Adam's wine, as they call it in fucking Yorkshire. Whatever.
You ever had a red Powerade, mate? Those are pretty thirst quenching, like.
Those are, but here's the thing, I can't lie. Back in the day, I used to sometimes get a relative of mine to just go down the shop when I'd been out on the piss the night before, and I wake up at like 1 in the afternoon. I'd just tell them, go, get one of those Powerades, get a fucking sausage roll, meet me back here, and bring the change. And then I'd eat that and try to like fucking see if I could go on with life.
Do you want to plug your sponsor? You can plug your sponsor, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Game of Sups isn't bad. Yeah, if you like energy drinks, put it this way. Actually, unlike some of the other ones, it actually has quite a nice taste. It doesn't just taste like chemicals. It actually tastes like, I always say it tastes more like one of those like vitamin waters or something. Yeah. It's like it's got a little bit of a watery taste to it, but it's nice in that sense. It actually tastes like you're actually drinking water as well, which is good.
Let me give you a nice easy one, guys, and I swear by this: Sprite for a hangover. Oh,
I've heard some people say that's supposed to be good.
It's legit. It's legit. I think it's something to do with maybe the electrolytes, all the sugars. Like I don't know. But when I'm fucking really struggling, like generally I can get through it. Like it is my hangover routine. I have a piss, have a look at the piss, make an assessment, right, about how dark it is and where I am on the fucking nightmare scale of how bad it's gonna get. Right, like you know, because sometimes it's yellow piss, that's fine. When we start getting a brown and orange piss, you know, it's like, yeah, okay. Orange first, obviously. Brown is at the real bad end. You go, right, kidneys are suffering, you're in for a bad day, and then you need to go and go through everything. Barocca, bottle of water, liter of black coffee, that'll all take away the fog and do all of that stuff. But then Sprite, I just find like a fucking Sprite is like if you're in the middle of nowhere and you've got a crippling hangover and you got shit to do, Sprite is your friend. I don't know why it's Sprite. I don't know why it's not regular lemonade. I don't know why it's not even some of those cheap, because I've tried them, the lemon and lime knockoffs. Don't work the same. It has to be Sprite. That's the mad thing. I don't know if it's some chemical they put in it. But mate, Sprite bailed me out a number of times at E-League. I'll tell you that for free. So, yeah, Sprite, guys. Put some Sprite in your refrigerator and it'll fucking save you. Believe it. Not 7-Up doesn't even work, I don't think. Got to be Sprite. People
fucking Fido Dido. That little Sprite stealing cunt. Old school reference there for the kids.
That's mental. Well, an ex-Milli Vanilli.
I know.
Right. Next question. Out of all the esports hotels and land center floors, where have you gotten the best sleep of your life?
Wait a minute, that question doesn't even make sense. What sort of mad non sequitur is that?
He's saying which esports hotel have you stayed in or floor, where have you ever had the best sleep at an event?
Because the weird thing about events as well is, especially back in the day when you used to be working all hours, famously everyone just got shit sleep. It's not even about the quality of the hotel at that point in time. It's about the fact you just woke up at mad hours, caffeine all day. So like, it's actually very rare I've ever had good sleep at events, to be fair. It's just super rare. If it does, it's almost by accident. You can't replicate it even. I
mean, I've had some nightmares. I told a story recently about how I barricaded myself into a fucking hotel room. So I've had some nightmare mode sleeps. I mean, I'll just say this. There was one time I was doing a transatlantic flight and I went business class. I thought, fuck it. You know, I don't like doing it because in general, what the airlines give you now for business is what you used to get for just flying transatlantic 10 years ago. They give you less and less. You pay more and more. But I had a rough day. I thought, fuck it. Let me tell you, every time you do it, it's always worth it, mate. Being able to just lie flat.
It's a shit, isn't it?
Oh, lie flat with a blanket over you. You got that turbulence, it wakes you up. You don't even care. Fuck
That's why I can't handle these players now, Rich, because they're acting like it's still the bad old days. Meanwhile, it's like this. It's literally like Device just goes like, he's just on there like, it's like the fucking beginning of the Matrix or something. There's all his music in his headphones. Please come by and watching. What's that? I'm just coming out of a sleep.
Yeah.
What's it? Oh, chocolate cake. I haven't got to that. I'm not.
I know, yeah.
He's looking at the movies. Maybe get to those. And then he goes, pulls up. Tell you what, here's what we need to sort out the fucking comms on that. Give me a break, mate. You're living the dream right now. This is mental. This is mental.
Yeah. And that's what I mean as well. Like the way that, like, you know, you get hot towels, sir. Yeah, don't mind if I do. Here's a fucking meal. Here's complimentary drinks. And listen, we tell the fucking poor cunts out back, you better not have more than one, or we'll fucking land this bird and fucking have you arrested.
And that's the CSPPA meetings. There we go.
But you know, they say to you, another Bloody Mary, sir. Don't mind if I fucking do get shit faced on this plane, because I'm wealthy, so I'm allowed to do it. So. Mate, when you fly fucking business class, it's banging. So I've had some of the best sleeps, hands down, at events, between events. Like, because there's no time, there's no way you can sleep anywhere else. Echo says, what is the shittest drink you've ever had?
Let me think a bad one. Because there's loads of alcohol I hate, so...
I mean, I'll just jump in while you're having a think.
I'll tell you what I don't understand is I like to drink tequila, the really cheap shit, just to get wrecked because it gets you super fucking wrecked. But I've never understood when people like, mate, you know, if you buy like an expensive tequila where they actually drink it for the taste, those taste unbelievably bad. Who the fuck enjoys those? They're really horrible. Really
I had that
horrible.
as well. I remember I was with some I was with some lass. And like we were deep into a relationship, you know. She said, like, oh, you know, this is an expensive sipping tequila. I never even heard the phrase tequila where I'm from. Tequila used
just knock it back, yeah.
Yeah, tequila used to be, you know, 50 pence a shot. What was that club in Stockton that got shut down? Visage, you remember that? Remember Visage?
Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be £50 to get in and 50p for a shot of tequila and 50p for a shot of Sambuca. It was that was what tequila was to me. Yeah. So she said, this is a super... Mate, it's like, I may as well have fucking been chewing on a dead fucking marmoset's box or something. It was fucking gross. And she was going to great, isn't it? You can get that smoky flavor. No, this is, you know, and it's like you don't know what to say, do you? Because like you don't want to look like an uncultured fucking Philistine and break her heart and say everything you like is shit. But everything you like is shit. So yeah, I agree. I never got on board with sipping tequilas. Now I'm a fucking boozer, so I'll just do it. There's a bottle of tequila there, and it's expensive, and you're supposed to sip it, and that's what everyone else is expecting you to do. I'll choke it down and pretend I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I'm with you, mate. I think the concept of a sipping tequila is an outrageous one. But for me, I'll just say, whenever you've been in a rugby team, they do these things called nightmare pints. And yeah,
it's already it's going to be people pissing in it or something, isn't it?
Oh, I mean,
it does happen.
Like Sam will tell you straight up. I mean, listen, I've drank piss, obviously. It's
We've all drank
Why am
piss.
I gonna
We've all
tell
had a
him?
drink. I know.
Because you've been in a rugby team. If
All
you haven't
right, I
drank,
thought he meant
you-
like I was there or something. Sam will
I
tell
know.
you.
Yeah, Sam
He
will
was
tell
pissing
you.
in his mouth.
I was unconscious, but no, I mean, like when you're in a rugby team, like you're gonna get pissed in a pint at some point. But that's not even the worst.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's inevitable, but I'd say it's a possibility.
Welsh
It's
rugby
not
team,
bad,
it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Welsh rugby team, it's inevitable. But a nightmare pint isn't even just like someone pisses in a pint. They deliberately mix things that don't go together. So cider,
Something gonna
vodka,
turn your fucking stomach.
Baileys. And then you deliberately curdle the Baileys. That's what we always used to do.
Off.
So you So it would float up to the top. I hope this doesn't knock you sick, but it would float up to the top, and basically before you even got to the foulness below, you'd have like a layer of cottage cheese because the Baileys had curdled because of the vodka and the whiskey. And
Mate, I knew some guys where their fucking little brother, they were making him a drink where it was like apple juice and they just poured milk in it, all just curdled right now. I was like, I just want to slap it out of his fucking mouth, like, you little fucking spawn of Satan.
Yeah, I mean,
in the face.
So there were times I used to be like, there's a double curdled Baileys in a fucking pint of vodka with a pickled egg at the bottom. I'd be like, give me the piss. Just give me the piss. That's sterile. I'll fucking choke that down. It's not like I'm having it on draft. It's not coming out the pipe, is it? So who gives a fuck?
It's coming out of a pipe.
I know why is that his concern that it's not on draft.
It's not cold, is it? No, lovely and warm, like fresh.
Yeah.
All right, good.
So just say it, like. But anyway, yeah. So there you go. Those nightmare pints, because our captain had it down to an art. He knew every blend of every alcohol to make it the most stinking horrible thing you ever put in your mouth. So. Echo also asks, fucking hell, I said 5. I've scrolled down. There's more. Right. With a legendary Fnatic lineup of 2014-2015 having sung its swan song at Cologne 2015 and disintegrating after Cluj Poker, do you think there was a chance of a Fnatic nip shuffle if the Fnatic lineup with Dennis didn't go on to have immediate success with those 6 consecutive tournament wins? Was then lackluster minus Arlu plus Pith move a result of Fnatic having success with that lineup and Nip players realizing there was no way they could go over to Fnatic themselves or get those players over to Nip? I think we've talked about this a lot. It's really weird. I never understood why this is the case, but the LGB players that came into Fnatic and made Fnatic, for whatever reason, it just seemed like fire and ice. Like everyone who was associated with Nip was over there. Everyone who was associated with Fnatic was over there. And it was almost like a point of pride. They didn't want to mix up the teams. Like it always felt very deliberate. Like when roster changes were happening, you'd be like, well, are you going to bring in this boy from, like, surely it's time to go poach a Fnatic player? And they'd be like, nah, fuck that. We don't even want those guys. And you're like, what? Yeah, so there was a lot of that going on at the time. I don't know why. That's something that'd make a wicked documentary, I guess.
Sure. Because think about it. I always said this. That's the maddest thing about the Swedish scene. Even the French scene eventually thought, well, let's at least try Shocks and Kenny's together. No, the Swedish scene was mad enough to go. So we have Get Right, fucking Forest, whatever, Olaf Meister, Flusher. Let's just never try all those players in the team together. Why would we? Why on earth would we? Even though, yeah, it is mad when you think about it now. So there must have been some deep-seated rivalry there. As far as I know, chronologically, though, they never did try that. The move was, if people forget, around that time was when there was maybe going to be that move where some of the FaZe players might have gone with the Nip players, where it's going to be like Forest Exist, Rain, and something like that. And then obviously Get Right was going to go to Cloud9. So there was like some moves that were going to happen that could have for the Nip players. But as far as I know, there was nothing to do with Fnatic players. Like maybe possible Dennis was in that team, I don't know, but that'd be the only one.
J Dubs asks you a question. In light of recent events, should Perks have refused to join the G2 TeamSpeak to protest the contract he willingly signed this year?
There we go. A good joke.
That blocked his transfer to Fnatic. And what lessons can the MNCPA, the Merrill Neom Charitable Players Association,
that's well done. That's well played. Yeah.
Learn from the CSPPA in these groundbreaking advances for players' rights?
I appreciate that.
That is a wicked joke. I'll just say as well, because I caught that drama tangentially. That's some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like, I mean, I think you were right to call that out. Ridiculous stuff. Chingu, how much emphasis do you put on stats versus the eye test versus intangibles when you personally judge how good players are?
I think we're the same on this one, Richard, which is like one thing we've understood years ago, but I notice it is an American-British culture trade-off thing, is the reason why I never get triggered by like Skip Bayless, for example, or Stephen A. Smith or something is because I know their job is just to be a pundit. They just go on there and they give their opinions. Now, I will say I'm not a fan of when they like sex up their opinion, like, you know, this guy has to be the best or the absolute worst. Like, they go too far with the hyperbole on that for sure. But the premise that they just have their own opinions is totally legit because that is the essence of sport. Like the whole thing is the reason we watch sports is we can all have some dog shit opinion about who won the game, who lost the game, who should they sign, who shouldn't they, should this coach be fired, is he doing a good job? Like just getting to have opinions is half the fun. So in my, like when I do it, I go basically almost entirely off the eye test. I might use stats and stuff that's an interesting one to lead me into a point I want to make. But generally, I just prefer to watch the game, see what I fuck with, what my vibe is. And then also I can just talk around whatever I want anyway. So it doesn't really matter where I start. I'm going to go to my points anyway.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I feel like, you know, if you look at stats and you go, oh, those stats are amazing, and then you watch the player and they make a number of mistakes and sometimes make mistakes that cost their team the game. Because understand that can happen. You can have an immaculate game and then at fucking 15-14, you fuck up. It goes into overtime and you lose. I think it's a valid criticism that you made that mistake in that moment. A lot of morons out there in the fucking peanut gallery will never know that, because they don't even really watch the games. I mean, that's something that also needs to be said. There are a lot of people pushing a lot of opinions that don't watch the games religiously like we do. And, like, I know it's fucking religious and you know it's religious. Go to any game that's happening live and do @RichardLewis in Twitch chat. I'm there, motherfucker. Believe it. So, whereas a lot of these people on Reddit are going, yeah, but he top fragged in this game. You didn't watch it. He top fragged and 10 of them kills were fucking eco kills. You know, or hunting people down with weapons, and it had zero impact on the win. So I think it's important you understand stats get you halfway there, but then you got to know the rest. And that only comes from experience, context, and giving a fuck and watching the games. Chingu's follow-up question was, has anyone ever revitalized their career from a lower point than what Cadian did to being heroic now?
Oh, I don't know about that. Because I'm trying to think of it, like he was almost like complete. He was in like bottom of tier 2 at one point in time. I think, you know, he was pretty far down. So I don't think anyone could have. Because think about how high back up he's gone in the entire scene. Who would even be comparable to that?
Very hard.
The Cliff one's obviously a classic one, but then again, that was like self-inflicted. So I don't know entirely how much that counts.
Well, I mean, listen, I think Glaive is a very good shout for the best of all time because Glaive was done. He was done. His reputation in Danish CS was at an all-time low. No org wanted to touch him. No, like, all the managers thought he was a joke. The players thought he was a joke. This is a guy who literally had a tantrum in a final because his girlfriend wasn't allowed on stage. It's pathetic.
Not a big final either way, guys. We're talking about some small little shitty LAN as well, not like a massive event.
Wasn't like, I mean, I don't know if that makes it better or worse, right? I know. It's just pathetic. You know, he said that he got super sick afterwards and he spent so much time in hospital that it was like having the fucking introspective DMT trip where you see all your behavior laid bare. And he said he was ashamed and embarrassed and he wanted to be a better version of himself. And he went out and he worked super hard, and Astralis picked him up because things were going bad with Carrigan. If they hadn't have been, he never gets that opportunity. He was told on the way in, by the way, this is absolutely it, and you'll be out on your ass if there's any fucking funny business, because we run this shit. We run this town. And not only did he take over it, he fucking propelled it to being the best core of all time and arguably the best CSGO team we've ever had. So Cadian has done very well. There's nothing like the Glaive story.
That would also be another instant documentary you'd make. There's one immediately.
We should, you know, if I can get you some scratch, mate, I think me and you just sit down, get high, and fucking knock these out the park. All we have to do is come up with scripts and then go out and interview cunts. If we can't do that at our fucking stage in life, what are we doing even being here, you know? Right, last two, definitely. Do you guys have any recommendations of how to place your savings? Maybe a hedge fund, or should I bet it all on red? This is Duncan's area of expertise. I piss mine all away and I'm proud to do it.
I would just say, first of all, just actually saving properly is probably the number one thing. Like, just make sure you always have your taxes saved for. I'd probably build up a little bit of savings before you invest it anywhere. As far as I can tell at the moment, I would probably just do something very, very simple. Like, don't try and be an expert. Just maybe just invest in the entire like S&P 500 index or whatever, you know. And then if the stock market goes up gradually and you can afford to lose that money, just over time, it'll be slightly better than a bank account probably. I don't know much about this field, but that's decent signpost there.
I don't have a wife and kids, so I don't give a fuck what happens to my bank balance. Equally as well, I always figured I'd probably end up on the streets or in jail at some point because that's just kind of like how my fucking family rolls. So I don't care. I've given most of my money away, like down the years. I've got enough to pay the rent, keep beer in the fridge, and I don't give a fuck about nothing else. So you don't want to come to me for investment advice. I don't value money. It's shit to me. So, you know, whatever. I don't want the big house, and I don't even drive. Don't want a sports car. Like you say, you know, a gram and a 6-pack. A gram of beer.
There you go, of course. Yeah. What else? You have a gram of, you know.
What else? Idiots. So, last question. Who was the biggest meltdown? Oh, jeez.
This is a good one. I just saw this. This is good. I
have to say it now.
Yeah, read like a real question.
I have to say it. Fuck it. We're timestamping the fuck out of this episode anyway. Carv, what was the biggest meltdown? The Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster in 2011. Brilliant, of course. Japan's equivalent of Chernobyl, guys.
Always
definitely.
forgot it, yeah.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Great, guys. Brilliant joke. Or Chris J. going against the CSPPA naysayers last week on Twitter.com. Now, I'll say the obvious answer to this, it is Fukushima.
Yeah, it wins, believe it or not. You know, the other one was just tweets, wasn't it? You know. The problem is, though, it wasn't just his Twitter meltdown. It's the fact that he then was like, excuse me, I've just got a game to play. And then just like bottom frag the fuck out of that so hard. It's like, you're just having a bad day, aren't you, Chris? Because that's why he made that tweet after the game, if you saw, where he was like, if you come at me tomorrow, come at me early.
Yeah, I know. It's like why even say it, though? Why even say it? Do you know what you cannot do? You cannot say outrageous things to defend the fucking player organization that doesn't pay you and doesn't value you. You don't have...
Is he doing some like fucking Braveheart shit as well, where it's like, sir, it's like, but sir, if we do that, EPL's going to kill a bunch of the tier 2 teams. Oh, who cares? Teams cost money. Send the Irish. He was like, he was on that.
Send in the Irish.
Send America. Send America. Like, mate, why is he becoming evil? Why is everyone becoming evil because of the CSPPA? Why is CSPPA like the fucking whatever it was, like red kryptonite in Superman, where it just made him like all his desires go mad or something, didn't it? Instead of just killing him, it made that effect to him.
Was that in the movie, the Quest for Peace?
I don't think it was actually. That was like the one where
that's where a clone of him becomes Nuclear Man. Or something,
you mean that was the one where they made like a part of him out of some like DNA? Or something.
Yeah. It's been
something like that.
No one talks about that movie. I saw that in the
that was bad.
cinema.
That was a bad movie, mate.
Saw it in the cinema as a kid. I saw Star Trek.
That was the one with like a Dolph Lundgren rip-off guy as the fucking bad guy. It was bad. It was fucking bad.
It was really
then
bad.
Again, if you're still making movies after you've just made one that inexplicably has Richard Pryor in for no reason with Superman, like you're already out of ideas.
Now you listen.
That one was bollocks.
Don't you ever say Richard Pryor wasn't entitled to that cocaine money?
Oh no, listen, fair play for getting the bag, but that movie was absolutely
mate, he got the bag and he spent the bag and he spent it on beak and then like lit himself on fire, mate. Yeah, you remember that story? You remember it, right? No, wait, he did so much coke.
Was he freebasing?
Yeah, he freebased and like he set himself on fucking fire and ran down a fucking motorway or something. Like lost it. No, because he even did a bit when on his comeback stand-up gig, and he said, "Man, all those people doing cocaine, and I'm the only one who ever blew up." That's what he said. That was his opening line of the show. Love Richard Pryor, like fucking what an absolute legend. I even went to Peoria where he grew up.
That's a weird. So you had the same sort of catchphrase as D-Man. There we go. I brought you back in. I brought him back in for a call back there.
Guy was an absolute fucking king. Absolute king. Not like D-Man, not a king. Anyway, that's the show. 3 hours. Come on, man. That's your lot. Fucking hell, what a lot of questions. And you know what? All of them on that edge. I love it. Can we get the show cancelled? Yeah, probably. Yeah. You can't even say certain words, even more words now on Twitch. But whatever. So thanks to Duncan for his stamina. Thanks to Sam for just being there and confirming that people in rugby teams do drink urine, and it's not just something that happened to me. That's a real thing. And obviously, shout out to our sponsors who no longer want to be affiliated with the show. NordVPN, they'll never make you drink urine. What they will do is they'll hide your IP online. You can get 70% off with nordvpn.com/RLS. Check them out. And of course, .com, beep it out. .com, beep it out. They've been with me for 3 years now, record content with them. Go follow their YouTube channel, CSGO, it's great. Loads of great content there. I just recorded like 3 hours worth of content with them today. It's going to be a ton of shit from me coming up there. Show them some love. And that's that. And obviously, shout out to our patrons that brought the show back from the dead. JerckysMinion, these are our $100 patrons. JerckysMinion. Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer. We're not going to be able to say your name really soon. Starting January, by the way, terms like Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer are going to be outlawed. So just to let you know, we're going to have to like call you BSAD or something, B-SAD, whatever. Just letting you know, Sean Gares, the real Sean Gares, J Dubs, Alice the Alchemist, Marcus Kiumpa, Flacksmith, Detlef Insomniac, and our $50 patrons. ReykjavikOnSteam, Sard Sawar, Benikage, Watchdog, Buttpounder420, same thing goes for you. Tobias Bernasconi, Chingu, Miss Alcoholic, Cathal, Echo, Rez, Elon, Gaming Paul DK, Quasar Fox, Smart as Superman, Lonny, Guran, X-Defil, and Firsoch. This was a chill episode of By the Numbers. We'll be back bringing the fire for the Christmas special sometime soon. Stay tuned to Twitter to find out when. And until then, take care of yourselves.